and welcome to episode 57 of the award-winning combat sports podcast, The Boxing Show, with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment, and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I am joined finally by the usual twosome of Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke as we review last week's boxing and look ahead to Joyce-Chisora this weekend. Guys, it's been a little while. I think it's 3, maybe 4 weeks since we've caught up. How are we all doing?
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
I'm sweating my tits off because I run. I didn't want to be late. We started a bit earlier today for some reason.
Just your mic, Barry. Just a little reminder of the mic.
So anyway, right.
There we go.
Well, when you put my seat over here, then I should. You do it. It's not my job to do that, is it? Andy's always
straight
perfect.
back into the fold here.
Anyway, I run to get my train because I didn't want to be late. You saw me. I couldn't breathe because I'm sweating my nuts off now. And we started a normal time. We sat here chatting, like talking bollocks for half hour. Mainly me, so I'm to blame. But either way,
usually we do that. We get here at the normal time and we chat bollocks for half an hour anyway.
It's a warm up.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, get those vocal cords working.
I might take my trousers off. Genuinely, I might take my trousers off.
It is a bit warm in here. We might introduce the aircon at some point. Andy, how are you? How are you getting on?
Good, yeah. Enjoying the summer. Spending a lot of time at home looking after my little girl, which is absolutely awesome. But I'm kind of like a goalkeeper at the minute because she's sort of standing and just climbing stuff. So you just got to be constantly in attendance, waiting for her to fall over in case she bashes her head. Which her mum never watches this. She has done a few times. You can't save them all, can you?
No, it's
always can't save them all.
Kids like a goalkeeper, you can't save them all.
Kids or falls. Well, some kids will live, some won't. Yeah, but you just move on.
But no, it is like sometimes you find you're kind of like launching yourself across the kitchen. No,
can't save them all. You got a billion sperm for a reason.
As I mentioned there, we've been away for a little while. I think the last show that we did was the Estrada versus Bam preview, Barry, which of course...
Move my chair over so I can talk to Andy as well.
There we go. Which of course we were at, but it is a while ago now, so we're going to talk more current affairs. And,
he was good, wasn't he, Bam?
Very, very good. It was very, very good.
Well, I liked about it.
No, we don't have time. We don't have time for that. But we are going to talk about this past weekend, of which there was plenty of boxing. That was Boxing Friday night, but I'm guessing you two learned men had better things to do with your Saturday mornings than be exhausted for staying up to watch Alexis Rocha at 5 a.m. So we're going to start with the Japanese boxing on Saturday morning. Always a great little treat for us in the British boxing calendar, these morning shows, Boxing Day shows, middle of the week shows. But Saturday morning, Andy, we saw the return of Junto Nakatani as he made the first defense of his WBC bantamweight title with a crushing first round stoppage win over Vincent Astrolabio. Going from strength to strength, no matter what the weight it is, it seems as though Junto Nakatani is going through them at a rate of knots.
Yeah, he is, and he's got a good few fights under his belt now too, hasn't he? So he's an experienced guy, and I love those shows because they've got a really thriving scene over there, and they have done for a while, and it's spearheaded by, you know who, by Inoue, but he's by no means the only one. And I just really like the fact that they're putting on these big shows in Japan. They're not feeling the need to go anywhere else. There are certain locations I'm sure they would go to if the offer materialise, but the time of day of it just makes it good fun as well. And every time Sky get an Inoue fight, so they're showing Inoue against TJ Doheny, I just feel duty bound to send the email saying, I really feel like we should probably go to this one, and then Ed Robinson will just kind of send me a picture back of his face, which is again seriously. But I mean the card itself was just it was just a series of stoppages, wasn't it? Yeah. Basically, and some pretty good ones too, and some quick stoppages. Yeah, but we were just debating before we came on as to whether it was on the borderline, whether it was a bit low, whether it was a completely legit punch from Nakatani. It's not something that people seem to be talking about a lot, to be honest.
No, and I don't know whether or not that's because obviously everybody expected Nakatani to win by stoppage anyway, and he was such a big favourite. But obviously it doesn't detract from the point, and it's something that Barry mentioned just before we came on air. You're not convinced, are you, that it was a legal shot?
I think it was low. It was on the protector, 100% on the protector. I mean, I'm a big fan of Nakatani, and I think he was going to win anyway. That's why you sort of go, wow, if you didn't know.
There wasn't too many protestations from the Astrolabio corner either, was there?
I don't think, because I think the corner were behind him, and the shot was powerful enough to hit through the guard and took the wind right out of him, to be fair. But it was still on the protector, and at the start of the fight, the instructions were quite confusing. I think he said Nakatani's shorts were high, so that's a good shot on the waistband. But the terminology used for his opponent, but I'm sure you said letters.
I think he said something like letters. Yeah,
I thought he said lines.
Okay. No, I thought
he said the
letters.
line of the short. So if he's saying the letters are good, then why didn't he just say that? That's confusing, because if he's using waistband for him and letters for him, because the letters are on your waistband, it makes no sense. I thought you said the line. And if he did say that, then that line means that nothing below that. So then by that terminology, it's an illegal shot. I mean, but we sort of go out, but he's going to knock him out anyway. But I think that shouldn't be the focus. I mean, just like to put a downer on it. No, I don't. But I just think, that's not fair. If that would have been Nakatani getting
we put the aircon on. We're going to melt.
If that's Nakatani getting caught with a shot,
yeah, you've got to think about it.
We
the
would
other
have
way
gone,
around.
oh, hang on a minute, come on, that's not fair, and it wouldn't have been fair. So that kid, that kid's camp and his team should be lobbying for a rematch. I think he gets starched quite quickly, because Nakatani's a real talent, and he knows how to use his range, 5'8", for his weight. It means he can go through the weights. I think if he can put on a bit of bulk sensibly.
He's only got the frame for it, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but I just, when he moves up in weight, because the way he carries his guard there's loads of gaps in it, but he uses it as like he puts his arms out there to stop it from stepping forward, and he got a wide stance and he steps back with it. But he won't be allowed that luxury at the heavier weights. So that guard is going to be a little bit tighter to actually genuinely block shots, not stop them before they get there. Does that make any sense? Because they're so short, they don't have to punch them too far out, and he can see them and block them from here. But when you fight bigger guys who have almost the same reach as you, your guard's just going to be it's not going to be a guard, it's going to be a hindrance. You've got to be a bit tighter.
Yeah, exactly. At the minute, he's almost doing that cartoon thing of just standing there with his palm on the other side of his forehead.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
But like almost every Japanese fighter, they keep their shape so well. They're disciplined. I mean, as a people, they're quite disciplined, aren't they, in every walk of their life, stereotypically. But the boxers, most of them, you find, even if they come forward brawlers, they keep their shape really well. So their elbows are always tucked in tight. They give you very few targets to hit. They turn into the shots very well. That's why that shot, to the body or to the gut, whatever it was such clean, because he bent his knees before he threw the shot. They go through they do every stage of throwing a punch correctly, and that's why him and obviously Inoue hit so hard and so clean.
Yeah, and they're fighters as well. It's kind of what I was going to talk about there. And they're big punchers, but they're never loading up on shots. They're not muscle-bound guys.
Body mechanics, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's punching through the target.
But to keep that discipline of not loading up, for anybody, even when you're not a puncher. I mean, I've loaded up. How ridiculous is that? But it's because you see a target, especially when you get a free target, or if it's easy for you, or you've hurt a guy, then the natural inclination is to want to go tear through him, even for people who are not aggressive, but they don't. And again, it's all about discipline and keeping your composure. And with discipline, you keep your composure, keep your shape, you'll punch correctly, and your vision's better. And that's what with fights, especially when they go down the stretch, keeping that concentration, keeping your vision, that concentration is what wins and what will win or lose you a fight.
We've all spoken glowingly about Japanese boxing in recent months. It's in as good a position as it's been for a long, long time, maybe even ever. From the 12 belts between super flyweight and super bantamweight, Japanese fighters are in possession of 9 of them. 9 of the 12. Of course, Inoue has 4 of them, which helps. There's all 4 champions at bantamweight: Yoshiki Takai, Ryusuke Nishida, Junto Nakatani, and Takuma Inoue. And then, of course,
has he retired Inoue now?
Takuma, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
There's maybe Takeshi Inoue that you're thinking about, who's the middleweight, super welterweight, boxed Tim Tszyu. And then Kosei Tanaka, who obviously didn't box at the weekend because his opponent blew the weight by 6 pounds. Which you never. I mean, we talk about it all the time. There's obviously been some high-profile examples in recent times. Brian Garcia, the stand-up one, Mauricio Lara when he came over to box Lee Woods. Japanese Boxing Commission ain't gonna let you box if you're 6 pounds over. One of the strictest commissions in the world. But where I was going with that is, of course, he has options now. Mr. Nakatani, 308 world champion, doesn't really put a foot wrong, Barry. Unification next. It would seem as though those four bantamweight, it's almost as if once they all clear out the division, and whoever's the last man standing probably has himself a pretty tasty matchup at super bantamweight with Inoue, unless it's his brother.
Oh yeah, but because Inoue, as I said, he's going to stay there for
a little while, yeah, which is something that kind of. It was interesting, wasn't it, after the Lewis Neary fight, where obviously he was dropped for the first time in his career, and we have this obsession, we've spoken about it for so long, of moving up in weight and going through the weight classes. People forget that Inoue started his career at light fly, and I think he wants to bed in a little bit now at super bantam before he jumps up, doesn't he?
I mean, for little fellas, they've always had to move up in weight.
Yeah.
But this, if you don't move up in weight, you can be called a great fighter, is ludicrous. And also, if you have moved up in weight, to be called a great fighter is ludicrous in its own right. Just because you won world titles in 4 weight classes makes you a good fighter, obviously, but doesn't automatically make you an all-time great. It doesn't, because it depends who you're fighting. And Marvin Hagler's a prime example for that. He stayed at middleweight and dominated. And not all the fighters were stellar, but some of them were out of this world. Brilliant fighters we had to beat. And Golovkin, another one.
Middleweight's one of those weights where some of the real greats have just started there and stayed there. I'm pretty sure Monzon.
There was no super middleweight.
Yeah, they could have to go up a stone and a half. Didn't they? That's the difference.
That's what it was with Hagler. There was options and opportunities for him to jump up to 175, but no super middleweight division back then. So
and even super middleweight's half a stone. It's a big, it's not so big for them, but it's still a big jump. Especially when you're getting guys who are coming down from bigger weights.
Hopkins stayed there a long time, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he only moved up because of age, didn't he? If he would have had a normal career and retired when he should have.
Yeah, you're absolutely 100% right.
So moving up's good. It's a good idea for these little. Moving up and chasing the money. I think that's a good idea. But you do it sensibly, and I think if he thinks featherweight's a stretch, by the way, you put him in with any featherweight right now, and you'd fancy him. That's the truth of it. That's how good he is. But it's a hard ask as well. All of a sudden the people take the shots. You can't be an imposing figure as you used to be at a smaller weight because they're naturally bigger than you. So they're not going to be as intimidated. Though with someone like him, his reputation precedes him, so you are wary of what you make a mistake, you're going to get caught. But bigger fighters, bigger weights can just soak up the punishment a little bit better for little guys when you move up. I've always said, and history will tell you, boxers move up in weights better than brawlers.
Punchers, yeah.
Yeah, strength. Sure. People who've done it on their strength always move up better than always struggle when they move up in weight because that strength is reduces. So, but he doesn't dine out on that. His power is everything, but also his technique's good, his discipline's really good, and the fact also, but he's in against bigger guys who will commit, like Neary, commit to a shot. And you get caught, you'll get dropped. Where the other guys in lower weights, because he was so big and powerful for his weight, were more tentative to really commit to power, to commit to an attack.
Yeah, if you look at Topala's had a little bit of a go, Paul Butler fight, and then various other ones. People are going in there to survive. Just final one on Inoue, because I'm aware that there was a lot of Japanese boxers in action at the weekend, and he wasn't one of them. He's obviously going to box TJ Doheny, which is, I think, on this side of the world, has probably not gone down very well. But if you look at Doheny's resume and his record of boxing
really like
in Japan,
him over there.
It works, doesn't it?
He's a name
4-0 over there. He's beat 3 Japanese fighters as underdogs.
Yeah, he's really well respected over there, and I think that's why he's got the fight, because they're aware of what he's done, and he's past his best. You would probably say.
He's been past his best a few times. Yeah, and he's still popped up with wins, hasn't he?
But I saw him boxing Dubai, not far off. When would that have been? It's a couple of years ago now, I suppose. But he had a good display that night. I saw him at the Falls Park against Michael Conlon, where Conlon boxed really, really well against him, I thought. But he's had a really interesting career, because I think that might have been his first ever fight in Ireland, because he's been on the road all the time. He was down in Australia, went to Japan, and they just really respect him and the way he's gone about his business, and that's that's a really big thing in their culture, to kind of reward that, I think, and it sells because people know who he is there.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of it exemplifies the sort of, I guess, not professing to know the attitude of them, but the attitude of kind of Inoue, and like this notion that he has to come to America and has to do this. It's like, you could just imagine, in America they're not happy with Doheny as an opponent. Like, right. Okay, just go ahead. Don't need to.
Sorry,
still going to be 50,000 people there. Still going to be millions of people watching in Japan.
If you're boxing regular, which he is, I think, then you'd afford it a guy who's not. Not everybody's got to be the stellar A-class opponent every time. I mean, you want that, and for the money that people are getting paid and the money we have to pay to watch boxing, then we have a right to demand every fight be the best fight that can be possibly made. But if you're boxing regular enough, then I think you're allowed a fight that's a fight out on paper. It should be comfortable.
The fight that was supposed to be next, or certainly was looking most likely, was Sam Goodman, who now wants to wait until December, wants to box Inoue later on in the year, and obviously is landed on Doheny. The WBA suggested that he should box Murodjon Akhmadaliev, and when you're Inoue and you've got all of the belts and carry all of the money, as we've seen with Canelo at 168, governing bodies can suggest a lot of things.
Thank you for your suggestion.
Yeah, thanks very much. We're going to fight Doheny.
It's like the suggestions box at work.
But the thing is, like, it's where like the mandatory position is. We've gone massively off track here, but that's fine. Where the mandatory position is interesting is it was a similar scenario with Joshua and Alexander Usyk, where it was like, okay, well, this is the deal. If you don't want to do it, we'll vacate the belt, and you can box Tyrone Spong or whoever for like a vacant belt and earn 10% of the money or 5% of the money. So it's where it does fall flat on its face. But anyway, for Inoue, he said that he obviously wants to box Doheny, Sam Goodman, then Akhmadaliev before moving up to featherweight. Just back to Nakatani, those big fights at bantamweight. You would think that if the plan is, and certainly it would seem so, and certainly it's been called for by everybody in boxing, maybe Takuma Inoue versus Junto Nakatani, that surely would make an awful lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Especially if he does a real good job on him. Which
I would expect him to.
Yeah, I would. And then that to taunt, there's not in their psyche, is it? They want to taunt people, but to taunt his brother.
It puts a narrative there, doesn't it?
It does.
Thanks. That's what I should have said. But I didn't know that word existed. I can't even say existed. But yeah, I think that helps sell that big fight then. And then that move to super bantamweight, I don't think it's a massive stretch for Nakatani. And then them two, and then all of a sudden them two is the biggest fight in the division. It's the biggest selling fight, the most exciting fight to watch as well. To be fair, Akhmadaliev is a good fighter, and that's a really hard match for anybody. But I mean, from a selling point, Nakatani versus Inoue is huge. Wherever you put it, obviously it's only going to go one place. But also stylistically, it's a great fight. It is, because he won't. All the things you get away with for both of them, by the way, they won't get away with them. And you find that all the time, don't you? With when stellar opponents box each other, it's not so much what they do well; it's what they do well won't work. So they have to adapt, and then you see the one who can adapt the most usually is the one who prevails.
It'll be a great fight. But they're fully stocked at bantam and indeed obviously super bantam. Daigo Higa, remember him? Was a big threat down at flyweight a few years back. Higa, he was the one he had an awful lot of momentum. He had a fight where he completely fucked the weight and then got stopped. He blew the weight and then he cracked and then he got stopped in the fight. But he's now rebounded really well. He's up in he's loftily ranked at bantamweight. And then Seiya Tsutsumi as well, who we saw box on I think he was on the Boxing Day card of last year as well. So they're pretty well stocked at bantamweight in Japan. Right, just going to quickly run through a couple of the other fights that were on this weekend. Tenshin Nasukawa, you may remember him as the man who Floyd Mayweather beat up and made cry in a Japanese exhibition a few years ago, but rebounded pretty well, it seems, Andy, into the professional ranks. Now 4-0, had another impressive win at the weekend via stoppage. As we mentioned earlier, there was a few explosive endings, and Tenshin's was one of them.
Yeah, it was, and it's good to it was good to see. When I kind of saw his name, I can't remember when it was. Not that long ago, I wouldn't have thought. And the first thing I thought was, is that the same guy that had that exhibition with Mayweather? Because that would have been an absolutely devastating experience. Because you look at the scene there and the crowd there and all the rest of it, and then Mayweather just seemed to decide on that night that whatever script there may or may not have been ahead of that, he wasn't interested in it, and he just humiliated him, didn't he?
Yeah, I actually rewatched it the other day. There's a moment in it where Tenshin sort of feints and then hits him with a 1-2, and then after that you see Mayweather go, oh yeah. It reminded me of the video of Ray Leonard when Ray Leonard sparred in the amateur, and they said, look, don't take the piss, because if you do, I'll knock you out. And that's exactly what happened.
Maybe that wasn't in the script, and certainly wasn't in Mayweather's script, and he thought at that point, actually, you know what?
You're going to get it.
Yeah, and that would have been a really difficult one to come back from, because Fighters more than anything else fear, embarrassment, and humiliation, and he got it in spades that night. So it's good to see him. It's good to see him doing well, to be honest with you. And it was a good finish. There were lots of good finishes on that card.
There certainly were. Jonathan Rodriguez was mentioned kind of before we came on. He was in a brilliant fight with Antonio Vargas on a matchroom card. But yeah, he was dealt with in pretty spectacular fashion. Before we move on, Anthony Olascoaga. You should get you to pronounce all of these names, all of these Japanese names and crazy names, Barry. Anthony Olascoaga.
Yeah, Ollie, you call him.
Picked up the WBO flyweight title this weekend. No, it was the light flyweight title, Olascoaga. There's so many different belts at the minute. So many different fights and so many different titles on the line at each time. But look, fantastic. It was the WBO fly. Sorry, we've been away for a while. Against Rico Cano. The clip that's doing the rounds on socials, I'd imagine you're a big fan of. The right hook to remove the guard and then the left uppercut down the middle was a beautiful shot.
Bad, is it?
Beautiful.
So left hook and the uppercuts certainly through the middle were fantastic, really good. It's fancy because like they both committed the shots, weren't they, as well? No, both loading up on them, like not loading up, but both looking to hurt each other from the offset. And it was a really good scrap, to be honest. Those Japanese guys are brilliant. So you're watching them eating your cornflakes.
Yeah.
Or shreddies.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's great. It really is.
You eating Dad's breakfast, yeah? Eating that breakfast?
No, I'm kind of I'm not
healthy.
Not a big breakfast guy, to be honest with
you.
You
will be now because your kids eat breakfast and you start eating crap with them. But either way, I was sat there in my pajamas. You been in pajamas, yeah?
No,
you
not
will
a pajama guy.
You will. Don't worry.
I sleep naked and don't eat breakfast. There you go.
It all changes now. You got a baby daughter, haven't you? That's going to stop very quickly. But either way, right? Yeah, there's So sat there with my legs up watching that. In the room on my own, and they're watching like just wars.
It was nice. It was unfortunate that all of the early knockouts get saved for like the morning shows. Sometimes you want them in the late at night, and late at night you got dragging into 10, 11 rounds.
I didn't watch the TNT. I was out Saturday night, so I didn't watch that live. So I had to watch that yesterday. And then and you want to watch it. And I love boxing, but when you're watching it thinking I got to watch it to talk about it, it becomes a real chore. And you're like, fuck, Eddie up, come on.
Yeah,
it's like anything.
Get the information.
It was good. Actually, it was a really good. By the way, it was a really good show.
But it's like anything. If you feel like you have to do it, it just takes the edge off it, doesn't it?
No, but if you're watching it live, I got no problem with it being like 12 rounds. I don't care because I'm watching.
Yeah, because you're enjoying it. Yeah, but when you know the results as well, it's the worst.
Yeah. Sport's all about live, isn't it? In the moment.
But yeah, great win for Anthony Olascoaga, and of course Tenshin and Junto Nakatani. Just before we move on, that Tuesday the third card, I mentioned Daigo Higa and Yoshiki Takai. They're fighting for the WBO. Takai obviously won that belt recently against Jason Maloney in a really, really good fight. He almost got stopped in the very, very last seconds of that fight. That's also got Ismael Barroso against Andy Hirooka on that card. That's a really good fight. Ismael Barroso, good to give these young pups a chance.
I love those Maloney brothers.
Yeah, game as anything, aren't they?
They're brilliant, man. They're brilliant to watch.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Jason or Andrew. Which one retires? And no, he's not retired. He retired in disgust after his last fight. It's on the Lomachenko.
That's Andrew, isn't it?
That was a knockout of the year, that was.
No, Jason's the one that Inoue knocked out. Andrew's the one that Nakatani knocked out.
The Nakatani knockout against Maloney was knockout of the year. It was unbelievable.
Chilling knockout. But Barroso against Hirooka is a good fight. I don't really rate that Hirooka. So it's going to be interesting to see how Barroso gets on with him. But let's move away from the Japanese boxing on Saturday morning and go to the equally glamorous part of Birmingham in the UK for the rematch. Nathan Heaney and Heaney-Pauls. Barry, the first one was too close to call. The second one ended emphatic fashion by Heaney-Pauls, who picks up the British middleweight title in a really, really good performance in another good fight.
Yeah, it was, because again, a slower start again. He caught his rhythm really well. But then what was it, the fourth round? Yeah,
it was the fourth round.
He knocked him down.
The fourth round.
Yeah, but and he was boxing like that round, wasn't he? Heaney's one of those guys who, he could have got such a long reach for it. He gets away with pushing the jab out, pushing. So because he travels so far, I think the fighters find it hard to punch off it. But Pauls, he slipped his head just only a little bit to the right. When you slip your head to the right, it brings your shoulder back naturally. So when you do that, it'll give you the natural rotation, the punch through the punch through the body then with the right hand. It's not you can slip you can just throw the right hand over the top of a lazy jab or a slow jab, but when you move the head, it changes the angle of your body. That means you have to rotate from the hips, which gives you that proper rotation, which means you punch through the target. And he hit it with a peach of the shot. Again, we're talking about not loading up. It was nice and smooth. It was so smooth you almost didn't see him move his head. But if you watch it slow motion, he just moves off to the right a little bit, twists on the shoulders, and then goes whap right on the middle. And yeah. And it was always, and then from there it changed. Then he believed in himself, and then he was confident to just walk through the jab or block it. And Heaney just was wary because he was struggling a little bit, and he fired back and all that. But I mean, it was just the finish was fantastic in the end. There, it was a real hard scrap for him, but the finish from Pauls, the accuracy with the work was brilliant. It's a weird thing because like Heaney's a great story, Pauls is his own little great story. You know, and that beauty of boxing, even though like you're feeling sorry for Heaney because you could sell loads of tickets and he looked like a fighter who wasn't going to do much, ability wise. He looked okay, but
people used to talk. People used to talk about him like he was a complete novelty. Make sure you don't put him in there with anyone because if the second he fights somebody, he's going to get knocked out. We all heard it over the years throughout his career.
But also, even if he's not, when you have someone who can sell so many tickets so early on, you do go, protect him here. Even if you're on small hall shows, protect him because he's selling the show for us. So you do look after him to an extent, but he never looked like he was going to get beyond. You thought he might get to a British title challenge, maybe. But he didn't look like he was good enough for that. That's not slacking him off.
Yeah.
It's
a testament to the work that he's done. It's credit to him. Yeah.
He has ability. Of course he has ability. But there's boxers who have more ability above him. But his work rate and his head and his ability to adapt and learn, trade as he went on, and fight management, all that crap we talk about. He knows what he is. And he knows how to manage, for the best part, when his wins, how to manage how he goes about his contest. And he boxes a high work rate and he's fit. But so when he won the British title, you're going brilliant. And where does it end now? The cat's out of the bag. You are a good fighter, and you're not just a ticket seller, but you are beating people. You are finding a way to win. And now Pauls as well. You look at Pauls. You look at a kid who was being touted to go on and do some good stuff. He comes unstuck against a guy who never should have beat him in Tyler Denny. Where's he now? No, and that weight in itself is just. It's just you can just pick fantastic stories. Denny's another one, isn't he? Then you just go. You should not be where you are. And Pauls was probably the one who maybe should go on to do some stuff. But then you look like maybe he's being exploited by Denny. And then Denny goes on to do better stuff. So you think, it's not so bad. And then but against Nathan Heaney, he goes in an underdog, which the way their career started off, you would have thought Pauls against Heaney. Pauls would be the massive favourite, and Heaney would just be the guy who's a ticket seller going in and taking his opportunity. But it wasn't. It was the other way in the first fight. And even though it was close in the second fight, I still thought Heaney would do enough to win. I actually did, to be honest. And Pauls was brilliant. He was fantastic. And if he can just start a little bit faster, he's a real handful for anybody in that division domestically.
Andy, Barry just mentioned there about Brad Pauls and obviously the Tyler Denny fight. We were at that fight, and we've spoken about it since, and we've spoken about the first Heaney fight since. It seemed to me that following that Tyler Denny performance, which Brad Pauls, by his own admission, wasn't his best night, didn't necessarily handle the occasion particularly well, or whatever it was. Then he had the first Heaney fight where you could he definitely was improved, but still it took him a bit of a time to get going. But this weekend it looked as though again he'd sort of learned and taken something from the last fight, and we saw him get down to business a little bit quicker and produce a bit more. He looked a little bit more relaxed this weekend or last weekend than we've seen him in those two other previous fights.
He did, and we were chatting about half an hour before the fight started, and we both fancied Brad Pauls. Basically because we felt that he would have taken more from the first fight than Heaney probably. And those fights, I love those kinds of fights where you're pretty sure you know how it's going to go, as in one fighter will be sharper at the beginning, they've got that longer reach, they've got that jab, they can win those early rounds, but at what point will we hit the tipping point? Will it be midway through, hopefully, and then it's can you kind of catch up if you're Pauls, or will it be a little bit earlier? And this time, obviously, it was earlier thanks to the knockdown. I thought he was probably winning that round anyway. The fourth. I thought Heaney won the first three, and he was looking good. But you're thinking, how long can he keep this up for? That was always going to be the question. But to be fair to Heaney, it wasn't like he got knocked down and then Pauls dominated the rest of the fight. It looked like that could happen. But Heaney really dug in, and I gave him a couple of rounds. I can't remember what they were, maybe 7 and 9 or something like that. And I had it 5-5 through 10 rounds. But you always felt like Pauls just had more left. And he went after the finish and he got it and took it out of the judge's hands, which is exactly what you should always do if you can. But it's not what people do always do. And it was just a great watch, wasn't it? And as Barry said, these are two guys who... You talk about the tradition and what the British title means. You could see how much it meant to them. They're both very likeable, both very hard-working. They've got all the qualities you kind of look for in a kind of old-school fighter, if you like. So it was a really good headline. And I love it when a really good British title fight headlines a show and delivers, because a British title fight is a big fight and perfectly worthy of headlining. We don't say any show, but it's a proper headline for a good night of boxing, and that's what we got. And that defeat against Doheny was critical for Pauls, because I haven't actually spoken to him about it, but it would have been one of those occasions where he would have walked away from it, and when he finally could bring himself to watch it, he will have thought to himself, that is never happening again. Because he didn't do that night what he normally does, which is try and walk his opponent down, bring that pressure, and be aggressive, and let his hands go. He didn't do that. He was a bit hesitant. He double bluffed himself, I think, thinking I've stepped up to a bit of a high level here. Maybe I can't do what I normally do. I might be a bit too gung-ho. I need to not give anything away. And in the end, he just didn't really do anything. And Terry Stewart was telling him in the corner during the fight, he was just saying to him, basically, what the fuck is this? So I think it's one of those ones where you walk away from it and think to yourself, whatever happens in the rest of my career, if I get knocked out, if I go down swinging, whatever it is, but that is never happening again.
But then he has that ability, in that what he's seen, his strength, he drags you into his fights.
Yeah.
You've seen it against Cash, against everyone, and he does it early as well. He's a guy who's shorter than you. You should be able to hit him easy, but I don't want to say he's not knowledgeable. I've said it before, but the way he sits on that back foot with the front foot really straight from he's southpaw, but he puts that front foot right close to you, but he sits really far back.
Yeah,
and he crouches low, so it makes him really hard target to hit.
Yeah.
So you're tempted to let your hands go. That's why you don't work with him, because you're thinking
he's an unpleasant guy to fight.
He's really awkward. He drags you down. He drags you down a level, actually.
Yeah.
And makes you fight a war when you don't want it.
And then he sort of gets into you with his shoulder and head and grinds into you. And he looks like he's made out of stone, doesn't he? So it just looks like a really unpleasant experience fighting Tyler Doheny.
All he doesn't have is raw power. If he had power, he's running it. But I mean, and also what he's done after the Pauls fight, makes Pauls think, even though Pauls would get you, I can still beat him. You just go, well, listen, look what he's done.
Yeah, we've been talking about Heaney against Tyler Doheny, but Brad Pauls against Tyler Doheny. Yes, please. But British and European.
It's a great division.
Well, he's got Hamza Shiraz first.
Shiraz, which is
tall
order, metaphorically.
It is a tall order. It is a tall order.
Yeah, like Tyler Doheny's been proving people wrong consistently, but that's the biggest of us.
That's a hard fight for anybody in the weight class.
Yeah, it is.
At any level, British level or beyond.
Shiraz knows exactly what he is. I mean, and for a fighter, when you're close to getting to a world title shot, to know exactly what you are and where you are. He's still, I still think Shiraz, if he gets hit, might unravel with a really big shot. I think that might still be in him, but everything, he knows his range perfectly, and he boxes with knowing that. That's why he gets you on the end of all the shots now. That's why he can throw those uppercuts in close. He knows where he is. He works behind the jab. He forces you to. I was so convinced he was going to knock out Ammo Williams when everyone I was working with wasn't so sure. If they thought that he'd win, they didn't think he'd knock him out. And I was going to tell you to stop him. I can't see how Ammo gets anywhere near him. And I was right for once, but I mean, but I mean, there's so many good fights out there for Pauls. Not just them guys above him, the ones who coming up around him as well, who've lost and won fights. But it's so competitive. I mean, there's really
it's a good division.
Attractive fights.
I mean, his stablemate Linus Udofia, those two won't fight. But you look at Linus, he lost a razor-thin decision against Denzel Bentley and hasn't really been able to get too much of an opportunity at that British title level since then, but that would actually be a
Be a
really
great
good
fight,
fight. And seeing the celebration,
But they might have to.
seeing they might have to.
Well,
seeing Linus in the ring and Terry Stewart, and they've both been with him right from the start, and they're not going to go anywhere. And you go down to that gym in Epping, and it's a real tight crew they've got there.
That was one of the options that I thought may be likely is the winner of Denzel Bentley and Derek Osaze, which is August the something or other. I think August the 17th, maybe. That, I think, Denzel Bentley obviously didn't have his best night against Nathan Heaney, subsequently rebounded well with that win over Danny Dignam. I think that would probably be about right. And you're thinking kind of domestic middleweight challengers, unless they're looking to do the trilogy with Nathan Heaney, which to be fair, I wouldn't be massively averse to.
No.
I know there was some communication, some talk around whether Heaney may be done at 160 and move up to 168.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that.
I felt like I obviously don't want to take anything away from Brad Pauls. It was a fantastic performance and a fantastic win, but you just saw the gas tank empty a little bit sooner in Heaney this past weekend, and certainly those late rounds.
Also, but taking a big shot
tires
you out, and that knockdown in the fourth round, that takes 2 rounds off you. I think. No, they can, but he's right though. He's dined out on how fit he is and how his work rate is, and they didn't look as stellar as
he was cooked in the 11th round, wasn't he? I mean, he obviously got hurt and put down, and then
he can't hide it with his style either, can he?
No,
the way he sometimes he looks a little. He's too much on his toes, isn't he? At times?
Yeah, but you could tell it wasn't in him anymore after, and he got hurt and obviously put down in the last round, and then the fight was over.
But the confidence Paul gets from that now,
massively.
All of a sudden, now you win something, it changes you. It does change you.
The Denny fight into the first Heaney fight, and then the first Heaney fight into the second Heaney fight. There's clear progression there, and it as it often is the case in boxing, mental. You would expect that a lot of the stuff that he's been through in those 2 fights, not really showing up against Tyler Denny, and perhaps not putting the hammer down soon enough against Nathan Heaney.
And I would sign. I don't know who he's signed with.
Promotionally, I believe
they might have a couple of fight deal with.
Him and Linus were with Wasserman, but they're not anymore. That ended a while ago.
Yeah, no, he's not with Wasserman. I'm not sure.
I don't think he's with anyone.
I spoke to
him. He
him.
might be now.
He could well be now. I spoke to him, and he was very, grateful and complimentary about Queensbury and Frank Warren in the build up to this fight, because they didn't have to give him the rematch, and they said we'll get you back, and they did. So there could be. I was speaking to his manager Steve Goodwin after the fight on Saturday night, and I didn't think it was proper to go, so what's next then? Who's he signed with? You just sort of like
enjoy it, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't always want to just sort of but
he's good to watch, isn't he?
About the next. Absolutely, and he's
a
marketable guy, good looking guy. There's not too many people from around that part of the country as well, so like you could do something similar to what, I'm not going to say he's become world champion like Chris Billam-Smith has, but somebody from not a conventionally boxing part of the world. Who wouldn't want to go down to Cornwall for a summer fight?
It'd be amazing. That'd be great.
It's a nightmare to get to.
It is hard to get to. It is a disaster to get to.
But I mean, even regardless of all that, I mean, all the fights around him are really attractive fights. So just not so much. I mean, you sign him because he has a title, but I mean, and he's good to watch. But there's fights, all those middleweight fights are good fights to watch. So I think why wouldn't you want to get that middleweight? You want that British middleweight title in your promotional camp. That's more than whoever wins it. Just winner stays on with that sort of thing. But I mean, because there's loads of good fights to watch, and then forget about it. He'll like every fighter now. Once you win that, he won't be thinking defend it. He'll be thinking, I want the winner of Shiraz, and I want to know if Shiraz wins, I want Shiraz, and if he doesn't win, I want the rematch with Tyler Denny. Which again, but if Tyler Denny beats Shiraz, I'd be more inclined to still want to go for Denny than I would go for Shiraz if Shiraz won. Does that make any sense? Just because you think because Denny beat Shiraz, then why would you want to fight him straight away? But I think
it's still a good fight, isn't it?
Stylistically, it's a fight that he's got more chance of winning than he has.
The board are not going to complain about Tyler Denny challenging for a British title, are they? He's totally.
Well, he's European champion, isn't he?
He's totally
he should be top of the list if anybody.
If were he to lose to Shiraz, he would need to quickly get a win, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
before
I think the winner of Shiraz
is that even a thing anymore? Should be.
I mean, I thought it was, but I think maybe someone actually has managed to do it without doing that in recent times.
What, win a British title on the back of a loss?
Yeah. Has somebody done that recently? Or was it a world title I'm thinking of? But generally, you do need to.
Title,
I think it might be the world title. But generally, you do need to nip off, get a win, come back.
Yeah. I think the winner of Tyler Denny and Hamza Shiraz will box for the vacant WBO middleweight title.
Yes.
Because Janibek has announced that he's not going to do the weight anymore.
I can't
understand. I can't understand why he wasn't stripped in the week. why are you not stripped? You can't make the weight because you've fainted and passed out and whatever else. Like, why did he get to keep hold of it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it's sort of like a.
But yeah, but I do think you should be given that. You should be given an opportunity to explain why, because sometimes not being able to make the weight might just be making the weight wrong rather than just not growing out of the weight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe it was an injury and you couldn't.
But I mean, he's been talking about fighting at super middle, light heavy for ages, ages and ages.
But also not making the weight right for when a fight's coming up. It doesn't just affect you; it affects your opponent and his career and his ambitions, and it affects the promotion. It affects everyone's pockets. So if you can't make the weight right for whatever reason, then that's your responsibility, though. Even if you've had an injury.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Your
primary responsibility as a professional fighter is to make weight.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that, isn't it?
Right.
That's why I was kind of, people were winding me up about it, taking a piss out of me for it. But that's why I was so kind of
missed that. Shit, what was that?
irritated by Ryan Garcia just blowing the weight by so far.
Oh yeah.
Because look at what that's done, knock-on effect. Like, put to one side all the other stuff, but he beat a fighter who. It's just a mess, isn't it? It's just the whole thing's a complete
took
mess.
energy out of his body to make the weight, and you never.
Yeah,
I know we're digressing, but people going about it's only £3, which is enough weight to have advantage. But it's not just £3. It's not what they weigh coming into the fight. To lose that £3 takes it out of you. Yeah, that's what people didn't
understand. Takes out your chin, takes out your gas tank. But
by round 8, when you're both absolutely knackered, that's why all these people who cheat and taking diuretics, like for the small fighters. When you get to round 8, making weight naturally, then. You're knackered, your gas tank's empty, but so your opponent should be in a grueling fight. So you're on a level playing field if you're both as fit as each other. But if you've cheated to make the weight and haven't had to go through
it's like running. It's like running a race, isn't it? But choosing to opt out of those 2 miles in the middle that are really hard.
I got to jog on a spot where you have a 10 seconds rest.
Yeah, it's.
I just made that up. That'd be good. That'd be good actually. They should handicap races, shouldn't they? Stop after 50. Anyway, come on, carry on, please.
Right, brief interlude there. I had to nip to the toilet. Sorry, full disclosure. Let's talk about another British title fight.
You kept your microphone on. We could hear you.
Talk about another British title. That wouldn't have been good for anybody. On the undercard, Andrew Kane becoming the British and Commonwealth Super Bantamweight champion. Almost said Commonwealth Super Bantamweight World Champion, but anyway, maybe soon. With a 5th round stoppage win over Ashley Lane. Barry kind of went quite similar to, I think, how people expected. Bantamweight, by the way, not super bantamweight. And an impressive stoppage win for Andrew Kane. Ashley Lane had to walk through the fire until, unfortunately, the heat was a little bit too hot.
Well, Lane would be fantastic, because he never should have been where he ended up.
Yeah.
But he outworks you, hustles you, makes you work hard. But against someone like Kane, who's heavy-handed but very sharp with his feet, and he picks his shots well, doesn't panic under pressure. You should see how comfortable he was on the ropes just to block, because Lane's not a huge puncher or any puncher. He was just so comfortable, Kane, just to block and counter with the same hand all the time. Those uppercuts through the middle were fantastic. He was really good. I think stylistically it was you sort of said if Lane would make him rush his work, but once you seen that Kane was just so calm under pressure, then it turned out to be stylistically the perfect fight to make him look good. Yeah,
because you didn't have to go looking for him at all.
He made him look fantastic, didn't it? It highlighted how good he is. There you go. That didn't make him look good. It highlighted how good he is. I thought he was fucking brilliant. I thought he looked really good. He was really good. He's good to watch anyway, isn't he? But I just thought he's even better than what I thought he is, because he's just so controlled in everything he does. His balance is better than what I thought it was. Actually, I didn't really rate him on that. I just thought he was heavy-handed, and when you have power, you got more. When you have a bit of power, you can be more patient and have more time to work, because people are afraid to throw at you. But you've got someone like Lane who doesn't give a shit. Actually, Lane, he literally will walk through a wall if he can, but he couldn't. And then with that, he was trying to force the pace, trying to put the pressure, try to do all the right things, but put himself in the wrong positions to do it. So with Kane, you got to get there close, work away, and you got to get round the body quick. Or you've got to be a really good boxer and be able to feint the boxing from range. But even that's a tricky opposition, because Kane can jump into hooks really quick. His judgment of distance is really good. His timing's impeccable at this level. And I just think he looked brilliant. And if the performance of the night, I thought.
We had that bump in the road, should we call it, Andy against Baluta, who we all know is a very
He's
good
a bump in the
fighter.
road type of fighter.
Yeah, he
isn't
very much is. He's very much a bump in the road type fighter. But I mean, you could sort of see in Ashley Lane, come forward, try and break him like he did to Chris Bourke, really, where he just put the pressure on, and then ultimately Bourke just sort of folded under that. But looked like he'd learned a few lessons from that Baluta loss. Andrew Kane stayed nice and composed. Sort of every shot was solid and hurt. It didn't look like he was loading up. I thought, as Barry said there, I thought it was a very clinical, overall, all-round performance.
Yeah, it was, and clinical's the right word for it, and the finish was exactly that too, wasn't it? It was merciless.
Big body shot.
Yeah,
Horrible
merciless clinical finish, and we all have one of those. And as the cliche says, L is for learn, not lose, and it's not always true. Sometimes a defeat, if it is a real defeat and not just a loss, can be terminal or very damaging. But often it can be very advantageous if you use it in the right way, and that's clearly what he's done. They've got a real thing going on there, haven't they? The Everton Red Triangle.
Great gym to watch, aren't they?
Yeah, really good to watch. And you just think about what they've got inside that gym to kind of help each other, though. And they're all around the same weight, aren't they? And there's the McGrails as well as Kane and Ball and Strand.
Paul
and
Stevens does a great job.
You see them around fight weeks. They're a kind of like just a fun, sort of busy crew. Nick Ball might fight Jazza Dickens. I was reading today,
Yes,
and ERT Old Boy. That'd be great. I'd be all over that. But no, it was a really good performance. And there's not much more to say about it than that, really. Ashley Lane, yeah, as Barry said, it was great to see someone get to where he got to after a lot of hard fights, after a hard career, when you thought he probably wouldn't. We all love that. I think to see somebody achieve,
even if it's just for a while.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah, you're always really, really happy for them. But Kane was too much for him.
But also those Paul Stevenson fights, they're all so well conditioned. They're all technically good. I think I know he's lucky. He's got a few fighters there who just have loads of power. A couple of fighters who got naturally great ability, but they're all well conditioned with it. So when they do get caught with a good shot or the fight's hard, they can dig through it, and I think that's the difference with that. And also, it seems quite a down to earth kind of gym. That might change now because they get more attention. They have a world champion in their camp, and that might change. I don't know, but at the minute,
I don't think it will.
I don't think it will.
Yeah,
I don't think it will
because
he's kept it grounded, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's kept that connection with the whole club, and so I think they're doing some great things there. He doesn't get enough credit, actually.
He's not bothered, though, is he? He's one of these guys. I've chatted to him a little bit around Nick Ball's last couple of fights, and he's not interested in giving interviews. And
by and large, the really good trainers don't really care about.
No,
Grant Smith's like a good example.
Yeah,
of that,
they do. They work in the gym.
People think he's been around for 2 minutes.
He's been around for a long time,
hasn't
hasn't
he? Yeah, you know what I mean.
We're going to just move on, but a couple of potential bouts for Andrew Kane next. There's, of course, the winner of the European bantamweight title fight between Thomas Asomba and Charlie Edwards. The winner of that could be an interesting one for the European title. There's also an all-Scouse affair with Paul Butler that could potentially happen. You don't know where Paul Butler is at this stage of his career, but you never know. But yeah, some potential options there for Andrew Kane.
He's not Scouse though.
Yeah,
he's from Ellesmere Port.
Okay, well, is that not Scouse?
No, it's a bone of contention.
It's
you don't want to get into it. It'll be there forever.
Scousers tend to not like me anyway, so it's okay. It's fine. Moving on. Chantel,
not just Scousers.
Yeah, I was going to say that's why I moved on. Moving on before the Welsh pipe up, and moving on to Chantel Cameron, who of course made her long-awaited return to the ring, her Queensberry debut against Ellen Mekhaled. Looked like she was on her way to the stoppage within the first minute to 90 seconds of the fight, but as often is the case in 10-2s with somebody like Mekhaled, who is very, very experienced, she managed to fiddle her way through it. But I thought a pretty good return to the ring for Chantel Cameron, albeit a fucking terrible scorecard of 95-95 by one of the judges, but nevertheless a winning return for Shan Cam.
Yeah, and it was. I really enjoyed that fight. I thought it was a really good fight to watch. Really good fight to watch, and Mekhaled, you have to give her a lot of credit because she did have some pockets of success. It wasn't like she was just trying to survive. She was always throwing back. It didn't look good for her early on, but she got through that. And then after that, it was a really good tussle. And a good fight for Cameron too, as you say, after some time away, after those Taylor fights and all of the stuff that goes on around that. It must be quite exhausting.
New team, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, and new gym, new team, new everything for her really. So yeah, I don't think it could have been. I don't think they could really have had a better return. I mean, you can always knock someone out in the first round, I suppose, but in terms of what you would want to happen, I think it was kind of perfect, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was. I mean, because she had the natural. It looked like the natural size was going to be a massive telling point, and it was going to get the stoppage, and that looks great on paper. But all it is there, all it looks like there, she just bullied a smaller woman. That's all it would have looked like. It wouldn't have helped her. But Mekalev, that's your pronounce name.
Yeah.
She was good. I thought she was really good. I think she's going to be she's a hard match, she is, for people. But I just thought it allowed Chantal to show her range. I thought the way she was just changing uppercuts and hooks, and she always works quite well to the body. But her jab was good as well. The straight shots on the middle, she kept the shape that way. And then when she moved forward, then she worked the body really well. I think it allowed her to show a variety in her work. I thought she was good. I thought really good. And she's still a force to be reckoned with in women's boxing.
It's interesting to see where she goes. With respect, it does feel like she's on the side a little bit at the minute. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano are kind of.
Well, Katie Taylor's holding all those titles. Is she still lightweight champion as well? I don't know what's going on.
Well, she's got a couple of them. She's still got the WBC because Dubois is fighting on August the 3rd against Myra Moneo, and that's for the WBC interim. And Taylor's let a couple of those go, but not that one. And people are kind of wondering, but that's a sanctioning body issue, isn't it? If you're a fighter, you're going to keep it unless they tell you otherwise.
But that's not fair, because then if Dubois wins the interim title, we don't see her as a world champion. And then if Taylor then says, I'm going to relinquish the title, and then Dubois, like a brother, gets the championship through the post. Then you elevated to world champion, but you haven't. It's not the same, is it? It's not the same for them. They miss out on that magic. We're saying in the new.
No, that's where governing bodies, sanctioning bodies rather have to be. They have to be more consistent and stronger. But how many times?
And fans will criticise it for
how many times have we said that?
Like they have criticised Daniel for his IBF title. We have to see that as a vacant title shot, vacant title, don't we? Him and Joshua, and you'll see it with Caroline. So it's not really fair. But just Katie Taylor can do what she wants, and she's earned the right to an extent. But the rules should be in place. But she won't fight Chantal. I don't think there's the money's the Serrano fight's the money fight.
If you're Cameron, do you start looking up at 147? You've got Lauren Price there, you've got Sandy Ryan there, Michaela Meyer, Natasha Jonas.
Yeah,
it looks like she's got the frame where she'd be able to.
Yeah, she's on the wrong side of the street, though, isn't she? Promotionally, and I mean with this new unity, that looks like then those fights can maybe still be made. But everyone seems all those fighters are on Sky, aren't they? Except for they are, aren't they?
Sandy Ryan.
Sandy Ryan's free agent, aren't she?
Yeah, Jonas and Price are both on Sky. Sandy Ryan free? I didn't know that.
I don't know. Oh, she was on the zone for a while. She was a matcher. I'm not sure what she is.
Yeah, it's funny that the kind of hands across the water that we've seen in Saudi Arabia hasn't really translated yet to our domestic scene, has it? I don't think there's been loads of opportunities to kind of demonstrate it. But one thing we haven't seen in the whole Saudi operation so far either, in its latest incarnation of female fights.
The problem is though, like Lauren Price, no one beats Lauren Price.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that as well.
That's the truth there.
Terry Harper's boxing Rhiannon Dixon.
Yeah.
On the down at lightweight, that's a much better weight for Terry Harper. I think we can all agree on that. Obviously flirted with 154 and won a one title at 154, and indeed
just flirted with it.
Just picked up a little belt and then dived down.
But if you're Cameron,
3 weights,
I think you do look up, don't you? I think that's what you do, because I think she needs to kind of just forget about Taylor. That third fight, I don't think is going to happen, is it? And she won one, she lost one. I think she'll have some regrets about the second one because she didn't box in the second one the way she did in the first one. And I fancied her heavily to win again against Katie Taylor. I really did.
But Taylor was better.
Yeah, Taylor was. You have to give props to the winner always.
Taylor's one of those great fighters, great women fighters who just she's been past the sell-by date for a long time. And then Serrano fight, we said it's one fight too many for her, and but after that fight, I went that'd be it for her. Now that's the last great performance, but what a performance it was. And then she has to put another one out the bag, and then obviously when she got beat by Chantal Cameron the first time, you thought, see, just as good as Chantal Cameron was brilliant that night, but you just thought, yeah, she can't go to the well anymore. And I was like, she can, but not like she could have. She's working on muscle memory now. This is all just like just going through the routine, but not having the same vigor that she had. Just couldn't do it. But then in the rematch, she showed a different side to her. Again, she'd just be able to pull it out of the bag. But you can't keep doing that, or can you? I don't know, but.
No, at some point, I mean, you can't.
It's more important for Katie Taylor. She doesn't need the Chantal Cameron fight because she's the money side, so she's going to get more for Serrano, or she'll get just as much for someone else as she would for Chantal. It's the biggest fight for Chantal financially. That's what she wants it. So she should continue to call it out. But like you said, go looking at the places.
Yeah, but just kind of mentally move on from that and don't let it take any energy from her. Just keep throwing it out there, like you say. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking it's probably not going to happen. It'd be a bonus if it did.
Well, we're in July now, and then that Taylor-Serrano fight's going to happen towards the end of the year. November. November is the date that they've given for that. So, I mean, earliest that you could get that fight, even if it was on the table, was what, April, May next year, most likely. So you got a year. There's all sorts of avenues that you can take. I don't see any of those lightweights moving up and thinking, yeah, I'll fight Chantal Cameron for no belt.
No, she's big and strong.
And very God good. No. So it may be a case of her moving up to 147. Right, final fight that we're going to discuss it in some sort of depth from the Magnificent 7 card. Brilliant show, fantastic. But when there's 7 fights, it's difficult to review all of them and give them all the credit. But we will talk about a fantastic fight in the welterweight division, Barry. Owen Cooper and Echo Esserman. Echo Esserman, of course, domestically has been there, seen it and done it over recent years, picked up some very good wins. But this was, as we all love to see, a classic crossroads bout between the young upstart in Owen Cooper and the experienced man in Echo Esserman. And Owen Cooper almost got there ahead on all 3 judges' scorecards before a dramatic 10th round stoppage win from Echo Esserman. What a brilliant fight.
You almost want to forget about it. Just go to the last 2 rounds, don't you, pretty much. But Owen Cooper's a really good fight, isn't he? Really good fighter. Lovely style he got about him, lovely movement and all that. He picks his punches really well. Esserman, we know he changed his moniker now, hasn't he? But the engine suits him down to the ground.
That's a perfect example at the weekend. It couldn't be more of an apt.
But that shot that knocked him down at the end of the 9th round was the finishing punch.
Yeah, almost took his head off. That
was it then. I think you go back. There's Cooper. Cooper goes back to the corner, and they just say, "Listen, I don't know what they said, but they just pretty much go like this. He's done. But calm down. Just don't go walking into any silly shots. You got him. He's done. He's yours." And then Esserman, just unbelievable. To pull that, how'd you pull that out of the bag?
At the stage of his career that he's at as well, and obviously a lot of the question
not
marks
a big
around
puncher,
the fight
not known as a big puncher, by the way, either. But again, that work rate, emptying people's tanks, and even though and the accuracy in your work at a stage when you need it the most, it's just unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. It was brilliant. It was brilliant to watch, unbelievable. Yeah, just he was fantastic. He was. It was good. It was a really good fight from both. So Cooper, even though he's devastated, he's got a really good career ahead of him. That kid. I think he's a really good talent. And Esserman, I think, did he mention Boots Ennis?
Yeah, he said he wants to fight Boots Ennis. He wants to be fair,
good for him, though. Listen, when you come on a win like that,
I think he's 35 now. He obviously had the loss against Harry Scarf. And he's probably at that stage. I mean, it's like in the coming weeks after that, I'd have been thinking, "Am I ever good?" Because he was in the
Harry
mix for like
he was going to have to fight.
He boxed Karen Chikedzian in a final eliminator for the IBF. So he would have been thinking that could have been me. I could have been boxing for a world title. He's not going to want to box I couldn't think off the top of my head like a 25, 26-year-old 15-0 welterweight prospect who's going to come and fill him in, is he? He's not going to want to do that. He's going to want the biggest fight possible. But it kind of played out, Andy, is not how it should, but on paper, Owen Cooper was very sharp for the first half of the fight. I think he won certainly 3, if not maybe 4 of the first 5 rounds. But that 6th round, Esserman just started to get on top of him. And one of the things that I kind of noted from watching it, I felt like Owen Cooper was guilty of trying to punch Esserman off him at times, rather than just tie him up, negate, survive. I think that's one of the things that he'll end up taking from it, because you could see him when Esserman was getting on top of him, just trying, and then that's when the right hooks and left hooks started to land. But yeah, Esserman did what Esserman does and got there in the end, but he had to take, I was going to say, the scenic route. It wasn't so scenic for him when he was on the seat of his pants in the 9th round, but as dramatic as it really can get.
It was really, really impressive, because with someone like him, because we know how he fights and how he's got that engine, and how, okay, he might be down at halfway, but it's a case of when will that tipping point come, as we discussed earlier, and he'll run you down in the second half of the fight and get to the tape first, because we're used to that. It kind of takes the power out of it almost, but that's a hard way to go about your business. And he's done it for a long, long time. He was a long reigning British champion. He was always wanting to test himself at a higher level than that. Of course, who wouldn't? When you've won that title and you defended it a number of times. But it's testament really to just the willpower and the desire and the way that you've lived your life and looked after yourself 24/7, which is what everybody should do, but it's a difficult thing to do. That level of dedication is that's a talent in itself, because if it was easy, everyone would do it. So it was incredible stuff, the way that it finished, and just one of the best things about the sport, isn't it? That you feel like you know what's going to happen, and it turns out you don't. And that's sport. That's why we watch it, because you don't actually know what's going to happen. And for Esserman, you do just what you want for him is to get, in whatever form it may come, a big fight, big money. That's what you want, because he would have made decent money as a defending British champion. But
boxed on some decent cards, didn't he?
Yeah, it would be great to see him just land that one where you think, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just having a look now. Obviously, that was for the coveted WBO European title, which was, of course, held by Owen Cooper with that win over Ethan James. Owen Cooper was number 10 with the WBO. WBO world title was held by this Terence Crawford fella. He might be any good, I'm not sure. But the interim belt is Brian Norman Jr. Mandatory challenger, Shakram Giasov. I think he's boxing on the August the 3rd card. I think he's been added to it. I think he's floating around there. But above Owen Cooper, you would assume Echo Esserman at the very least comes in at number 10, where Owen Cooper was. Alexis Rocha, who obviously had a win this past weekend. Giovanni Santillan, who was stopped by Brian Norman Jr., who stopped Alexis Rocha beforehand. There's Derek Cuevas, David Papo, Suleiman Sissoko, Karen Chikedzian. So there's names there that also I don't think there's really any names there that you think, can't put him in with that guy. Not in a sense that he would win those fights, but there's not a Boots Ennis of 18 months ago. You think, not him. Don't.
But there's no big money fights there, is there?
No, that's the problem.
I mean, he might be better off staying where he is, and then a little bit less. Maybe he's not going to get a world title fight. Just not. I can't see that's not going to happen for him. I don't think so. I mean, you never know, but I just don't see it. So, and I understand, because he's been British champion before and stuff like that, and you want to get that level again or beyond that level. That's not good enough for him. So maybe he does go the WBO route and defend this a couple of times and try and force his way to a mandatory. But time's not on his side, so he's just got to take any fight that's around, I think. That's it. The way he fights, he's a hard night for anybody. But at his age, boxing that way, the vigor's not the same in your work. I don't see how it. So, I think that around that domestic level is where he has to sort of look to make his money, and just try and grab a young kid who's making a name for himself, or has moved up to the weight, or just before they crack up to another level, you try and get him and get the most out of it financially.
I don't think it's going to be one that delivers a boatload of money to either man. But what about Echo Esserman against Conor Walker?
Yeah,
that's a good fight.
Good fight. A
really good fight. Midlands as well. Wolverhampton against Nottingham. So that's a good potential. But yeah, I mean, even kind of looking through some of the domestic names, it's difficult to follow. Obviously, he's already boxed most of them. Chris Congo, Harry Scarf, he's obviously boxed. There's Jack Rafferty, Harlem Eubanks, sort of listed here as 147, whether he's 140, 147. Michael McKinson. But again, that's not really a fight that's gonna bring an awful lot of money to either guy. Lewis Crocker.
Well, the thing is, though, you get it's just you are what you are. Not every fight, but not every fighter can earn loads of money, and there's more fighters can earn loads of money. So you just look at fights so you can prepare yourself to get a British title again, or getting a British title, or European, Commonwealth, whatever. And look at that level where you're getting a bit more than you would have before. Because you got a British title, you're going from getting like $3,000 a fight to 15, maybe. You know, that's a lot of money, isn't it? I know for some people. Not even, you know, we all straight away we think, oh, you know, us talking about him fighting for world titles is ridiculous. He should be talking about that. That's fair enough. You have aspirations, but in reality,
yeah, I mean, he would be a sizable underdog against Brian Norman Jr.
It just shouldn't even be mentioned.
Yeah,
You should be thinking
like,
oh, how do I get my British title back? That's what you should be thinking. How do I get to that? Let's find that. Let's get to that level. Let's target him. Let's target that route. How do we get that route? Or a fight that will do quite well in the Midlands and, you know, would be great TV. Conor Walker.
That's a great fight.
It's a great fight. It's not good for either one of those.
No.
I mean, but it's unbelievable.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Would you make him an underdog? I think you'd have to say.
Yeah. Certainly with how Conor Walker boxed against Lewis Crocker. Yeah, you would. Right, we're going to move on because we want to talk about this weekend show. There's a few fights on this weekend show certainly worthy of our attention. We'll just quick run through some of the rest of the results on the Magnificent 7 card. Ezra Taylor, 10-round decision win over the toughest man in the history of the world, Carlos Alberto Lamela. Unbelievably tough, that guy. I don't know. I haven't seen a guy get hit so clean so often for so long and not get chinned. Like, unbelievably tough that guy was. It was incredible. Sol Dakers, a stoppage win over Michael Webster. Felt like, you know, not usually one to dig out the comms. I felt a little bit harsh on Solomon Dakers at the weekend. I thought he won.
I thought they were as well.
I thought he won pretty much every round against Michael Webster.
And they got the finish well inside the distance.
I really didn't understand it. They were talking about Sol Dakers like Michael Webster was in there throwing 100 punches around. It was a bit baffling to me, but I thought it was an improved performance from him. Zach Parker back in the KO column against the returning Jack Arnfield. Shabazz Massoud, of course, with a decision win over Marvin Solano. That's the basic general rundown of the Magnificent 7 card, and a magnificent card it was in Birmingham. I really, really liked those Magnificent 7 cards. I've had 3 over the last year-ish or so.
That's a good venue, that as well.
All been fantastic.
Yeah.
I've been there not that long ago, Resorts World, and it's just nicely set up. There's hotels and bars, and it's the old NEC that people might know it as.
Yeah.
And it's a good. The whole kind of infrastructure is decent.
Yeah, Denny versus Cash on there.
Yeah,
and Walker versus Crocker, which was a great night.
Very, very good. Right, okay, we're going to look ahead to this weekend in the heavyweight division. Joe Joyce against Derek Chisora. Crossroads fight. You know, loser leaves town. I mean, I don't know how we're gonna approach this
one. It's not a crossroads fight for Chisora, is it?
No, it
isn't. Another fight for him.
Yeah,
but I think it certainly is for.
Yeah, absolutely for Joyce. Yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it, where you kind of saw it looming and you think they're going to do this, they're going to make this, and some people's reaction would be, oh, I don't want to see that. And you're thinking, yeah, you do. Yes, you do. Because it could be a tough watch, as in it'll be pretty brutal stuff. And it'll be one of those fights, it could be one of those fights where you're really aware of the toll that boxing can take. But that's the sport, isn't it? That's the sport.
I think the way you're talking there is if you think that Joyce is just going to smash.
No, I don't necessarily.
Because I think
I do.
I think he beats him.
No, I think he's going to run him over.
I don't. Didn't run over what's his name, Cash Ali.
Cash Ali's on the back foot. He's not trying to engage. Chisora's going to go looking for him.
Yeah, but I think Joyce is so slow that Chisora, even this Chisora, I mean, you know, will be able to dip, slip, and slide enough to get close to make it really horrible to watch. I think it's an awful watch. I do. I do. I think it's an awful.
Shout out
watch.
the Magnificent 7.
Oh yeah, Listen, TNT, your last show was fantastic. It was brilliant. I almost tweeted about it, but I want to try and keep my job with other people. No, but unless you want to employ me for this one, but
in which case, George Chisora had a great fight.
No, I'm not slagging him out.
No, it is what it is.
The card itself's a good card, but I mean that fight, I think it could be a stinker. Because Joyce is slow and Chisora might be able to get close, but he can't work effectively like he used to. But so it might be one of those. I only see Joyce winning the fight, but I think it could go long. And you know, unless Chisora's totally shot, depending on what Chisora's resistance is like. If he can't take a punch, then he's in trouble. But Joyce is not the guy who's going to tag you clean. Cash Ali, bless him, who moves quite well, but he has. No, I don't want to dig him out on here, so I won't say it. But I mean, I thought that was a fight that Joyce, that was a fight to make Joyce look good. I thought that he should have imposed himself and cut the ring off. Even though he's negative, he's not a guy who's hard to track down. You can get him in the corner, and Joyce would just show that just a mundane work rate. Just he's effective when but just not. Just don't rush. You can't rush. You got no pace in his work. But it didn't matter when he's walking through. When he was Pac-Man eating all your punches, which he's still got a good chin. Just got exploited by Zhang. And Zhang's a huge puncher, isn't he? And Chisora's not that. Chisora can hit heavy, but he still doesn't turn his hands over properly on the shot. So I'm not sure if the impact's going to be the same for Joyce, to be honest. So I think there's only one winner, but I'm not sure it's a great fight to watch. I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I want to watch a good fight. I'm going to be watching Saturday night, so I want it to be a really good fight, an exciting fight to watch. I don't want to see Chisora box ever again, to be truthful. But
that is the big.
But I don't blame him, and I don't blame the British boxing world. I don't blame anyone. If anyone's to blame, it's promoters.
Well,
they don't have to employ him.
I was going to come on to this because I put it to Mr. Frank Warren, of course, promoter of the event, because he had been very open and said on the record that he'd advised Derek Chisora to retire. But
giving him work.
I think he kind of misinterpreted that, Mr. Chisora, and is now back. And Frank Warren's view on things, or his opinion on things, or whatever you want to call it, his answer to that was, I advised him to retire. He said he doesn't want to retire. He wants to carry on boxing. So. Is sort of was Frank's response, and as
bollocks that is. I mean, I'm not taking Franco because Eddie Hearn's. I lose my job. Eddie Hearn's done the same. Everyone will do the same. But if there's a duty of care, if there's no duty of care, if they don't, they might not have a duty of care. I'm not slagging them off. If they haven't got a duty of care, then fine. And they'll say it's the British Box Board giving them a license, but all they can do, if you pass the medicals, they can't refuse you a license. Otherwise, they get sued. So they got to give you a license if you pass the medicals. Or maybe no. So there's no medical. It's just you can say there can be an opinion on medical advice.
Yeah,
you pass or fail.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But a promoter can just go, he shouldn't be fighting. Let's not make it worse. If you have a duty of care, you can say we'll go another route. But you tell me you can't find another heavyweight. I mean, Chisora's a draw. I understand that, but he's also probably expensive. I would imagine that as well. And I don't want to dig him out, bless him, because he's just doing all that he knows. But sometimes you've got to be safe from yourself. So I think he shouldn't be fighting. But I'm a hypocrite, because if I got offered to work on it, I'd work on it.
And also, you can't actually save someone from themselves. It's not possible unless they want to be saved. You can't do it. We talk about fighters being like addicts, and I think Chisora is very firmly in that category. And until he decides he wants to stop, you can't stop him because he's passing his medicals. And if he wasn't passing his medicals with the British Boxing Board of Control, or if they took what would be a very controversial step of saying we're denying you a license because we don't think it's good for you, even though you can still pass your medicals, how can you do that? You can't, because then you're making some kind of judgment about another person's life. But if they did do that, he would go and do it somewhere else. He would do it unlicensed, he would do bare knuckle, he would do something else. So if he's going to do it, I would rather he did it
in a British Boxing
under the British Boxing Board of Control than somewhere else.
I wouldn't see, because I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is sensible, and what you said about that is you can not let a boxer fight on what might happen in the future. Otherwise, boxing just banned sports.
No one can fight.
Well, boxing, people wouldn't do loads of things, would they?
But no, I understand he might go another route, but I mean, you always got to go. Well, go another route then. I think, why should we be stuck with the potential of a travesty in the ring, potentially, or we see him in a few years' time and not him? Why just him? Actually, let's forget about it. Why just him? We don't talk about other fighters who are less bigger names. We always go back to Chisora because we've seen signs that he doesn't look the same.
Yeah, he's just a good, but he's the best example.
Yeah, bless him. But he must get it. He gets this all the time, doesn't he? If he's passing medicals and the promoter's going to use him, I think they should maybe go. They said, we don't want to use you anymore, mate. Because why would you want that? Now, listen, I've had problems with my medicals, and I mean, when I got my license back, Frank Warren gave me an opportunity to box for a world title again. But I don't think he was happy about it. I don't think he knew who I was that much. But I mean, who wants to be wrong with the guy who did have an issue with this scan? Well, if something did happen to me, totally unrelated, they get the blame. for that. And it's going to be the same. What happens? Something happens to God. If God forbid it doesn't happen, something happens to Derek in the ring. No, not just outside after. So what? Something happens to him. It can happen anyway to anybody, any healthy guy who's from any age. But people will go, look at the signs were there, and boxing didn't help itself. You just help yourself. You caused that by allowing him to continue. That's the worry. But it's bad enough anyway with sport. You can have a healthy fighter that go through the same issue. But either way, I don't think it's a great fight. And
no, but I mean,
but Chisora, I've been loads of fights with Chisora. I think it's not going to be a great fight, and he's turned out to be really exciting.
The big concern that I have is the last time we saw Derek Chisora in the ring, I mean, aside from delivery drivers or whoever has been sparring recently, was...
But if the delivery driver was chopping off, he deserves it.
Anyway,
I love that.
Was the Gerald Washington fight.
Bit of a mismatch.
A little bit.
It's relevant.
Good luck to any delivery drivers at Barry's neck of the woods.
I ain't Chisora though, mate.
Just get the order right.
Barry's just be fainting them in the...
Give him a masterclass. Fucking bore him to death.
But anyway, the last time we saw Derek Chisora in the ring was against Gerald Washington in a fight where I felt like he did not look very good in. I felt like the it's more the balance, like when you can't seem to set your feet, that was a concern. And this is, as boxing pundits or whatever you want to call us,
But he won.
He did. Controversial in some instances, but he did win. Got unanimous decision win over Joe Washington. We've not seen him since. Before that, obviously, took a bit of a shellacking against his old mate Tyson Fury in the previous December. So the form guide isn't great for Chisora. But then again, it's not great for Joe Joyce either. Of course, he's been stopped in 2 of his last 3 fights, and Barry, I agree, didn't set the world alight against Cash Ali. You giving Derek Chisora any chance of the upset? Do you think that there's a possibility with all the issues that we've seen with Joe Joyce being hit clean and obviously was chinned spectacularly a couple of fights ago by Zhilei Zhang? Could Chisora finally turn the right hand over and cause an upset this weekend?
I don't think it will happen, but it could happen. I do believe that. I don't know what percentage chance I would give him of managing to do it, but because of what happened to Joyce against Zhang, and I'm completely aware that Chisora is not Zhang, but that means that there is a possibility. There is a possibility because those 2 fights against Zhang were damaging for Joyce, and he wasn't great against Cash Ali, but it was the first fight back after those 2 experiences. So maybe he'll be revitalised and do a comprehensive number on Chisora. That's what people are expecting him to do. But maybe that damage is in the foundations now, and it's always going to be there, in which case, the old cliche, this is heavyweight boxing, there is a chance, yeah.
Barry?
I think Chisora, a good Chisora, whenever that was, but tucks his chin in really well and can bob and weave quite effectively, and he can be a problem for you. He can get close to you. He's physically massively strong, and he's as wide as he is tall, isn't he? And he can be a problem for you. And he can work, and he bashes away at your body and tires you out, and he can be busy because constantly pushing you back. He swings that overhand right's a problem for you because you can't, especially someone like Joyce, who will be a hittable target. But he does hit with the fingers.
Yeah,
he always has. If he
turned it over against Carlos Takam. That's the only time.
And I just think that's one of the. I mean, all the trainers have seen it. All the trainers, they've seen it and they've known that if you can get him to do that. But just sometimes you just can't get it. You're taught in the gym and he just swings over, dips his head and swings over. It's the right shot, but he just doesn't get full impact on it. And I think without that full impact, it won't make Joyce panic. I think with Joyce, I think to take Joyce back to Zhang, you got to hit him with the knuckles clean and really make him sting and go, ooh, and that might put a panic in him. But apart from that, I don't think it will. So I do think methodically, if Joyce can find the target clean, then I think he can stop Derek. But I'm not sure he will find the target clean often enough. I see it going the distance.
Really?
Ooh, yeah. Wow. I think Joyce wins. But I think Derek can spoil it. I just think he can roll in and spoil it and make it a horrible fight. And because Joyce is not the fastest, he hasn't got the fastest of feet. Though he dances fantastically well, doing that stuff he does after the fight.
Or whatever.
But in the ring, he's all on his heels, isn't he? So he just doesn't move fast enough. His punch, his reactions are not quick enough to make when Derek will come and roll forward. Then he won't see the gap quick enough to throw the shot. He just sees someone in front of him and will just throw the jab. So, and I don't see him pushing Derek back too much with the jab. But that's if Derek has got any energy in him. If Derek's got no energy, then I think he'll stop Derek quite comfortable at any stage of the fight. But I think Derek's got enough energy to fill his way through it, try and be a bit competitive, and then just hustle, make it awkward. That's why I see it being a horrible fight, because of that. The speed of Joyce, the lack of the speed of Joyce, and the way that Derek can just rough it up inside, be physical inside, just make it a bit of a throw and grab sort of contest. Throw, grab, hold, push, that sort of stuff. The referee would be the busiest man in the ring, I reckon. The referee might throw the most punches after the two. I hope I'm wrong, and no, but I see it as only at the age here now. Joyce doesn't get a win, he's done.
Yeah,
I mean, not in that division. You always earn a few quid, but his aspirations of doing stuff is gone, I feel. But I think he needs more than just a win to really get a big fight next. I think he needs to stop Derek. If he stops Derek and he stops him quite well with a good shot, then he's back in the mix straight in that division. He's back in the mix straight away, because all you do is just show the knockout. If he labours to a win, he's a hard sell, unfortunately.
Okay, now everybody's suitably excited for Joyce-Chisora. Let's move on and talk about something else. On the undercard, we see the return of another heavyweight prospect in Moses Itauma, in I think his first proper step up now. We're getting into step up territory against Mariusz Wach, everybody's favourite heavyweight journeyman over the last 15 years or so. Been there, seen it and done it. He's been probably past his best now for the best part of the last 10 years, but is still very capable of looking after himself, as we saw against Fraser Clarke in the hottest day of all time. But Itauma against Mariusz Wach, a good yardstick, Andy, to see where young Mr. Itauma is at in the heavyweight division.
It is. It's the fight that people were calling for next. It seemed like the obvious thing to do. There weren't that many candidates out there for him. That's kind of the problem. You need to make that leap at some point, and this was the logical next step. And what this is about really is, can he stop him or can't he? Because if he could, then we talk about statements, and it would be one, because, as you say, Wach is really experienced and he knows how to make it to the final bell. That's what he tried to do against Fraser Clarke. He didn't really try and win that fight, which made it difficult for Fraser, and particularly in that kind of heat. And at the time, the 10 rounds was what he needed, really. But with Itauma, what we're looking at is, can he stop him? Because he's looked so impressive so far. I feel like he can, because I think he'll be able to click through the gears and find that variety. And it might be one of those stoppages where the referee decides that enough is enough here. Rather than Wach just ending up stretched out on his back, the referee might stop it with him still on his feet. But I feel like he can. I feel like he can get the stoppage.
But it seems like, as Andy's just mentioned there, and it's a fight that we've been calling for, it seems like the perfect fight for Itauma at this stage of his career, just kind of going through Mariusz Wach's "What have you done for me lately?" He obviously lost the 10-round decision to Fraser Clarke. He's had a couple of kind of low-key wins. Went the distance against Kevin Lerena, went the distance against Hughie Fury, was stopped by Arslanbek Makhmudov in a fight that he actually showed quite a lot of life in. Obviously, we've seen Makhmudov has not necessarily turned into the force that some expected him to be. But you think Itauma gets the stoppage? Yeah,
I think this is one of those great... I know we say it all the time, what a great learning fight for him, but it's not going to be a learning fight for him. I think he blasts him out. I think the way he can accelerate in his work in that division is different to others. And variety, the word that Andy used there, I think is important. Because it's with his feet as well, so he'll hit you from a different angle. So where Wach can easy cover up and absorb your shots. That's for fighters who punch right in front of you. But if Itauma can move around, that's my favourite thing. I don't say pivot now, I say that semicircle. But if he can move around that in front of you while he's throwing, like Tyson used, like Mike Tyson sort of used to ish, without the same. You're always going to be linked with Tyson because of the age thing. But if you do that and throw those uppercuts through the middle from a different angle, I think he blasts him out there. I think he makes a massive. It's not going to be a statement, but he gets. I mean, the quickest Wach has ever been done is 6 rounds. Yeah, but I think he does that. I do. I think he does that. I think it's good. I think that's going to be a really good fight to watch, actually. I think it's not a good fight. It's going to be a real good demolition job. We're going to see a young kid and we're going to go, I got a feeling we're going to go, whoa. And it'd be a case, do we hold him back now?
He really is.
You do hold him back, for God's sake, hold him back. But I mean, he's potentially a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
But all this Russian shit to get him to beat Mike Tyson's record is just stupid. I mean,
never mind that.
Say it, but don't do it. Just keep talking about it just to build up the narrative, but don't fucking do it, because this kid could have a long career here of beating every fucker.
I think the people behind him, though, are exactly of that inclination. I think they're totally happy for him to talk about it, but they're not bothered about it in the slightest.
I put him with Chisora next then.
But when you look at him, though, like he is really, really impressive. And when I look at him, what I find kind of scary about him is that he's weighing in at a pretty solid 240 these days. But the one thing you can look at with him that makes you remember that he's still as young as he is you look at his kind of like shoulders and his chest and his pecs, and you think there's quite a lot of filling out to happen there.
But he's so big, he looks small. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense.
Do you know what I mean?
It does
like,
make sense.
He does look
you
6
look at him
foot,
and you just think,
6.
oh, wow, he's 17 stone. But you look at this area and you think he still looks quite boyish in that area, which sounds like a mental thing to say, but he does. So there's some timber that can go on there. And when that goes on with the mechanics and the kind of maturity he's already got, you speak to, basically, when everybody says the same thing about someone, then they can't all be wrong, can they? And everyone, from someone like Shane McGuigan, for example, who, doesn't give praise out lightly when he says, yeah. And, we had a Coley up on the stream last time we were out in Saudi, and Moses was up there with us, and I put it to him that if a Coley stepped up into heavyweight, would he fight Moses Atama? And he just laughed and just said, absolutely not, under any circumstances. And he was happy just to say it. And fighters are not generally... They don't generally say things like that.
No, it's like, well, we're in different ways. We'll see in the future, and just if it makes sense.
I was halfway through the question, and he was literally shaking his head and just going, no.
We've spoken about it on here in the past. Where I interviewed him before he boxed Coley, before he boxed. He was supposed to box Gravatsky on the Joshua Pulev undercard, and he got pushed, and he boxed Nikodem Jazewski on a week's notice. But in the build-up to that, remember his first world title fight, I'd said to him about how's preparation going, all those fucking interesting questions that you ask people. And then he said, I've been doing sparring, and I, by this point, knew a bit of not what had gone on in the spars, but I knew that the Atalma brothers at the time, obviously still brothers, but like they were kind of sold as a pair because this is pre the European youths for Atalma. And Coley said that, I sparred this 15-year-old kid, Enrico, as he was called at the time, Enrico Atalma. He said there was some of the hardest rounds I've ever had in my life. And this is like stuff, again, like saying it openly on a podcast 3 weeks out.
His uniform, all that, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he liked it. And you mentioned Shane McGuigan. I think I've said this in the past. He called me on the day that Atalma had come to the gym. And he said, just had this kid in the gym. He's 15 years old. He's a future undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And you think like, hell, like he's not really one to kind of give out false praise, certainly to people not in his stable, but he's gone from strength to strength, and you hear all of these ghost stories and you hear all of this stuff from all of these different people, and as you say there, Andy, they can't all be wrong. It's just important, and he has great people behind him, and the people behind him know how to craft a career and when to push and when to pull.
He's been, listen, all pros are fantastic, but I think for him, Warren's the right guy for him. He steals the show Saturday, I think. I'm expecting. See, when you see Vac's name, you tend to think it's a great learning fight for him, but it's not going to be a great watch. It's like when you see Kevin Johnson's name, you go, well, it's a good learning fight for you, but it's going to be...
They boxed each other not that long ago, Vac and Johnson.
That's going to be a 10-round whatever it's going to be, but I think Atama as potentially could just do a right number on him.
Well, if you look at, we're talking about the Tyson record and whatever that kind of entails and what have you, but he's already number 10 with the WBO, Moses Atalma. He's got the WBO Intergalactic whatever title, and obviously will box this weekend against somebody who everybody knows in Marius Vac. He wins. The winner or depending on who wins and how they win at the weekend, Joyce-Chisora by the end of the year. What would that not make sense? He's ranked in the top 10. Joseph Parker's the WBO interim champion. He is also a Queensberry fighter.
Yeah.
Could we see Moses Atalma challenge Joseph Parker for a full version of the WBO title April next year.
But
we'd have to have fights in between. Like
yeah,
Vac, one more, and then Chisora.
But I don't know if it is one more, because he needs. Like, there's always saying that Joseph Park. Oh, Joseph Park, because his ability. Well, he could box anybody. His ability, but it's not just about ability. It's about managing a fight, experience in different situations, and Parker has all that. So he would come unstuck right now. That's the truth of it. I mean, I'm just talking about natural ability. Then he comes second best to Usyk. Natural ability, he beats Joshua. But he doesn't beat Joshua tomorrow, does he? I don't think so. They're looking at me going, well, maybe he does. But I don't know. But it's just managing.
You're right when you say
the occasion, but also fight management's a new term now, but it's not a new thing. And just being able to cope with different scenarios, they'll put you in a situation straight away. They'll take the centre ring away from you, or they'll walk you onto a shot. Things you just haven't learned yet. You think you've learned them because you're multi-talented, but you haven't quite been in there yet. And we all been top-class amateurs and turn pro, and then you learn so much on your journey to where you end up. If hopefully it's a world title, some of it's not, some of us it is. But on your way, you learn. Oh, I won't make that mistake again. And he's still there. He's still. You haven't had. Not all his fights have been stellar watches, have they? Not every performance has been wow.
Yeah, the Dovbychenko fight, didn't he? This was Dovbychenko, real tough.
Exactly. Real tough guy who wouldn't beat anybody.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Do you know what I mean? So you just
Mate Harris.
Yeah. But what I mean is, but you need that. You need those fights, but you need those tests at a higher level.
Are those tests out there at heavyweight? Because I'm not sure they are. If you look at
that season,
Joyce will be your test for him.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm saying.
But he can't jump straight over him.
No. So in my head, I'm thinking if he does what I think we all expect him to do to Marius Vac this weekend, I think we also expect the winner of Joyce-Chisora to win the fight, but probably not. After that fight, we're not going to go, oh my God, Joe Joyce should be boxing Usyk or whoever it may be. You get Vac beats Atalma beats Vac in July, has another fight in September, October. It's a Riyadh season from October. He gets on one of those cards. Then a big fight by the end of the year. Let's say he beats
the domestic fights he got. Him and Wardley.
Same trainer.
Well, they find different trainers, and I mean, when the money comes involved, you have to.
If Soldakers boxes David Adelaide, then the winner of that could be. But if you've beaten Marius Vac and you stop Marius Vac in 3 or 4 rounds, are you past that already?
You probably are, but it doesn't matter whether he's passed. I
you can still do it.
Yeah, you can still get that.
I mean,
what about Jermaine Franklin?
Yeah,
that's a good fight.
I like Jermaine Franklin. So that was the name I had in my head after the Vac. Somebody who's compact. Yeah. He's experienced. He knows some tricks of the trade.
That is a good fight for him.
Heelenius. When he's off his ban, and whoever else when he's off their ban, and just when everyone's off their ban,
he could just go consistently fight drug cheats. We could line up like 5 or 6 fights.
And then you got Otto Wallin, people like that.
One of them.
And then Otto Wallin, people like that who've been at a high level. I mean, but they don't really win at the high level, really. And then you hover around there. I wouldn't put him in straight away, unless you just think he's good enough to beat, on his day, he has the ability to beat almost everybody, maybe, potentially. But he gets there.
But those names you've just mentioned there, they're all good fights for him, aren't they? All of them.
Good hard fights.
Yeah, exactly.
Really hard fights for him.
So I think where you'll find out whether he actually is what we all think he is.
If he blasts through Marius Vac, I can't see him boxing like at British level or dropping down to have those domestic fights. He won't fight
Dakers, people like that now.
Dakers, Adelaide.
Yeah. Well, Adelaide it's a marketable fight. If Adelaide can do a job, can get a really good win back. Maybe he fights Dakers and blasts him out there in a round. But then he should just be calling people out. Why am I boxing Fraser Clarke? Why am I boxing? I want to win the British title straight away, not before I box for a world title. Or they just get him. Maybe they just think, what's he on about? We just get him to a world title now. But you learn on the job. Yeah. I mean, learning at that level. Once you get that level, learning is very difficult. So I don't know, but maybe he's good enough to learn at that level. I don't know. I just think you want to get there and stay there. I mean, and learning things you haven't learned about yourself. No, it's when you get at that stage, you make a mistake. Sometimes you don't get a second chance. Whereas at a lower level, you can make a mistake and get away with it. And I think that's important about. And because not so much you get through the fight, but then when you go back, you train your team and all. They go, listen, look what happened there. That happened there. Sharpen this up, you do this, because they need to learn about him, how he reacts when he gets caught with a really good shot, or when he hitting people clean and they just don't, and they just ignore him. If that's going to happen, No, I mean at a higher level, they fire back, not just cover up, and all that. Or your movement. So you got all of a sudden you box someone with his feet just as good as you.
Jared Anderson's a good example.
That's right on my tongue. That was. But Jared, yeah. But I mean, and him. But look at him now. They the top rank of them. What they do always. Like, we're going to put you in Bacoli now, and if you don't come through that, then you go down the list now, and you're on new Jagba.
We're going to put you in Bacoli, and we're not going to pay for it.
No, but I mean,
good luck though.
No, but if he beats Bacoli,
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But if you're top rank, you're thinking, they're going to pay him, and if you win, great, and if you don't,
but they're notorious for that, aren't they? We invest in you, but then we want.
Yeah, they haven't made that match, but it's a top rank match, isn't it?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, but I mean, and if he comes through that, if he doesn't. And if he folds against Bacoli, and that wouldn't be the biggest of shocks.
I think Martin Bacoli's going to knock him out.
Yeah, might do.
I think he's going to knock him out.
I fancy Bacoli big time.
Big Martin.
But then maybe Jared Anderson's a talking point for Atoma. If he really unravels, especially with his lifestyle.
You might have to box him in 18 to 36 months, depending on what state.
There's loads of fights for Atoma before he goes talking about
that fringe world level as well.
Before he goes to interim world title fights, which is everything. Someone's going to put him there, but he's a talent who will. I think he steals the show Saturday. That's what I think. I think we're going to see a really great performance from him, but he's just going to go. Everyone's going to be saying, "I chuck him in with the winner of Dubois and Joyce and Joshua tomorrow."
People were saying to me when Guido Vianello boxed, it wasn't a jack.
It's another good fight for him.
When Guido, Johnny Rice, when he boxed it, so that sort of it. But I think he fucking I really maybe it's me. I don't think I am overrating him, and he's still whether or not you still have to tick those boxes. You can't be like, oh yeah, but he'd knock him out, so let's fight someone better. You still have to.
You still do it.
You still have to go through the process.
Talking about potential,
I think he wiped the floor with both of those guys. Like I really do. And that's.
But if you take those fights, you just. Yeah, I mean maybe
not
those,
busy,
but be busy, and things can happen that can give you that seasoning. I don't know, you clash heads and you get half buzzed off it, and that's something you need to cope with and experience or whatever, or you get cut, or you don't want it to happen, but it wouldn't be the worst thing, because that's something that, again, as long as it's not a really bad one, that you've experienced that, and it's not always about the fight or what your opponent does. It's the other strange things that can happen to you in the ring that
And more importantly, I would say it's once you go to it, you can hover around the level, and then just hover around the next level. Once you go boom, 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 go up, you can't go back down.
You're there now. So
I mean, you can, but you get massively criticised.
Yeah.
For it. So again,
once you get pushed up through that bottleneck, there's no coming back down.
Yeah, and then what if he gets pushed through and he wins, but we see massive flaws all of a sudden, because he hasn't had the experience. That's all. Not ability wise, just temperament wise or anything. And you just go, oh, actually, he couldn't up the pace, or he did get flustered when he got cut, or when the guy laughed or kissed him or laughed at him. I as an amateur, I dropped the guy twice. Hey, and let's end the podcast there. No, in the first round, and he kissed me, and it went the distance. My head went. He kissed me on the lips. David J, his name is. Hi, Dave. He's a good boxer. You got the final about school seniors, but he kissed me and my head went, and then the fight went the distance. Then
I thought we should somebody recommend that to Marius Vac.
No, but whatever, they whisper something in your ear, they bite you, whatever. I mean, bit as well. Something just makes you lose your shape and lose your temper, or you panic, or they elbow you, or they bit you between the legs, or whatever they do. Things you just never experienced in your life, or maybe he has. That kid might have experienced everything. I don't know, and you might think I've done that, but you just don't know. Or occasions, boxing in front of stadiums, you being the top of the bill for the change,
exactly.
All the pressure on you,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, all that stuff you're not used to. Some boxers, if it's just ability alone, the landscape of boxing is totally different. Sports in general, it's how you cope with the occasion, how you cope with pressure that makes you special.
Yeah, and how long will it be? I wonder, before they decide, right, we need to have him headline a show and experience that, because that's like soon. I was at a show.
Maybe, but you don't know, because but
it's really useful, isn't it? I was at a show a few weeks ago in Brentwood where the promoter Johnny Clarke had taken a couple of Matchroom lads on loan basically for the night, George Liddard and Jimmy Sains, and they boxed on big shows, but down the card. But then for the first time for both of them, they're right up to the top of the card and the place is full, and it's your name on the poster, on the top of the poster, and it's different. And I remember just thinking, what a great thing for them to be doing at that stage. And for Italma, yeah, they want him to taste that where you're the man, and there's a lot of media demands, and whether you like it or not, and he doesn't seem to particularly like it, you're going to sit down and do a load of interviews, and that's part of your week. How long before they do that, do you think?
Yeah,
I remember the first time I topped the bill, the excitement I felt. Buzzing. A different media attention to a heavyweight, and there was no media attention at all, actually. But topping a bill, and on Sky as well, it was at the time, was a buzz. I was and I'm not a guy who created the limelight in my career. I didn't have a ring walk or anything, dressing gown, nothing. But I was so buzzing, like topping a bill. Like it gave me. I trained harder than ever before. How weird's that? Why would I train any harder? That was a fight's a fight, isn't it? But you do, or it's too much for heavyweights because especially now with the media commitments, it might be too much for him. So that's why I think don't rush him. I think you got a talent there that could reign for a long time. And either let this crop of heavyweights get a little bit old and pick them off, which won't be long, by the way, because they're all in their late 30s, or except for Dubois, or let him disappear completely and be the new king. Maybe potentially. Imagine that. And then you got some good fighters around. I think there's loads of good young talents coming through as well. So there's loads of fights for him to have, but just come up with them rather than I don't know what you do with him. But listen, he's with the right people. They know what they're doing with him, and they might just go, "One of these dickheads on about. We'll get him there now, and he'll pick him off now." Right?
I'm all for that. I think I'm all for him going a bit. I completely agree with the principle of what you're saying. I just don't think the real ones we've watched this. I'm not a big fan of the heavyweight division and the heavyweight boxers, and I think he's very good. And I think that, admittedly, I know it's different up there, and the punching power, and there's intangibles at heavyweight that you don't have to deal with in other divisions. But I think if you look at some of those old guards that he could get bits of experience, like imagine what you do to like Kubrat Pulev or somebody like that, or to like somebody who's past the end of his career but knows the tricks and the trades, big strong strapping guy. I think he can get those in a relatively quick.
I believe that, but this is the reason. Look, he boxes with an arrogance because he's so good, and he walks up to you and then he'll do like a screw shot or a shovel shot, whatever you want to call it, when he'll bam through the middle like that, and you go, whoa, look at that. He jumps up a few levels now, and he walks in with an arrogance, and he goes like that, and someone goes crack. Oh my, that's only a 5 grand watch. But I just got it fixed.
The power.
Just got it fixed.
That's the power. Right? This is super welterweight Barry Jones.
That's it. Nakatani Jones. And he's never been there before. Now, when he steps up a few levels, or he hovers just around the others, and before he gets there, he half experienced that with the guys with such good timing or vision or experience or waiting for the trap or diligence in the training camps that they have in Joshua. Look at the team you got. They got the people with cameras and everything, haven't they? Like Lee Wiley and all them sort of people. And they'll study that. See what he does that. You wait and don't watch his hands. Watch his foot. As soon as that foot goes there, crack him because you know what you're going to do. Do you know what I mean? All that sort of stuff. He wouldn't have experienced that at this level. So then, but if he gets caught with a shot, I have to disguise that all of a sudden. He's working on natural talent now. I know his team are probably doing great work with him, but ultimately, he's just he feels it, doesn't he? He looks at that sort of fighter. He goes in there with a plan, but he feels it. He's a reactive fighter. He feels it, and he just works on natural talent.
And that's one of the things I think it makes him such a threat in the division, because I don't really see that. Add
that with the experience of being at the level where I can feel it, but I can't just walk in like I used to. Against the lower levels, just walk in and go crack.
There's even got guys like a Jagba, someone who's big, strong, carries a lot of power in his right hand. He's a big, stiff guy who would get chinned. I really do. I think
that's just fine. But he is.
But he's that, and that's what I'm
in other divisions. Level, isn't he?
So they're thereabouts. He's got one loss. He's headlining cards and top
he's one punch from being world level again. I mean, ultimately, he's been shown to be what you just said, a bit stiff and rigid. So all those top guys would blast him out there because he'd be too easy to hit.
But once you
that's a good fight for
box
him.
Like an Ajagba, if you beat an Ajagba, then you're there, aren't you? And that's kind of what I'm saying with it. Like, I don't think he can have the incremental fights without getting there quickly. You know,
but also because
I don't think the divisions. Yeah, I don't think it has
but what we've got to remember is that You'll have a plan, and they will have a plan, but that doesn't mean that that's how it'll unfold.
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
the route will largely be determined by external factors. You'll have a list of people you would like him to fight. What they might all just say no, and then you've got no choice. Or one of the sanctioning bodies, off the back of a win, jumps him a load of places up in the rankings, and all of a sudden he's mandatory or not far off it. It'll get dictated to you to an extent.
I think the fact that he's number 10 with the WBO after 9 fights, I think is telling of where they want him to go.
This is what he does. Rack, Joyce, the Jagba, Charles Martin, World title.
I think one in between. I would go Vac. If they can make an Adelaide type fight now, I think now's the only time you're going to make it, because in 2 or 3 fights time,
they're worth too much money.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, again, I can't see him dropping back now, because they'll be like, well, we can get a fight that's going to push him up 2-3 places in the rankings for half of what you're asking for. Vac, let's say Adelaide throws it in there, Joyce or Jermaine Franklin, and then the other one after that, then a Joseph Parker.
I think if we'd had a winner between Wardley and Clarke, then that would have been a great next one after Whack.
Yeah,
but
that type of thing as well. Yeah. And with respect to David Adelaide, I think both of those are more commercially viable fights, in a sense of they can make something a bit.
And I would tell Atama, don't call anyone out. Don't call anyone out. And I also you should be calling. I thought you should be calling out. Say I want to fight Adelaide. Don't call anyone out. Be the one that says I don't need to call anyone out because I'm the guy. Just be the guy now. Say I'm the guy. Calling people out, then they come looking for me. Like I'm the best fighter on the planet. Just say it. They should be teaching them. Just say it now. Go gamble, innit? Be brave. Just tell people you're the best on the planet right now, and I'm unbeatable. Just do it. See what happens.
There's only a handful of heavyweights that I wouldn't put him in with next, or like say he does to Vac. I think Zhile Zhang's one of them because of the speed and the power and the experience. Bakoli's another. And then outside of the champions, I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah.
Who else don't you put him in with?
Yeah.
I mean, you classify Joshua as being in that.
Yeah, he's in a world title fight. Yeah. So like, there's not a huge amount. And you're running through it now. Like he's not going to box Wardley because they're in the same gym. Hergovich is never going to get a big fight again, just in case he decides to turn up. So everyone's just going to be like, well, no, because you don't offer anything now, which is fucking a real shame, but it is what it is. Kabayel, good fighter, very good fighter. Like he may be somebody that you.
I don't think I'd go there with him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but like
Kabayel's the fight before you. He's the fight unless he gets the world title fight before that, which he maybe should. Arguably he should. But Kabayel's the fight before you fight.
That's like in the third, fourth of what we were talking about. Yeah,
because he's tactically very good. More than anything else, Kabayel, he knows that he can manage a fight better than arguably better than any heavyweight. How he manages his fights.
Yeah, and he's in rich form.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. Okay, that's us suitably building up Moses Atama for the Marius Vac KO3 this weekend.
Maybe a stink. I hope that's a stink.
Jesus Christ,
and Joyce and Chisora is a fight of the year contender.
We'll be back for our Vac versus Atama 2 preview.
We always get it wrong. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, I've got a couple of quick ones to run through before we wrap things up today on this weekend's card. 2 fantastic fights. We're going to start with a rematch in the super bantamweight division for the vacant EBU title. Dennis the Menace McCann. I want to say he gets the opportunity to right a wrong. Of course, it was a draw first time around against everybody's favourite Romanian lunatic, Inoue Baluta. But it was a very, very tough fight first time around for young Mr. McCann. And I'm anticipating, Andy, as everybody seems to have with Baluta, another tough night this weekend.
Yeah, it's hard to see anything else, isn't it? But what you hope is that McCann will be a lot better for that experience. The idea was that he would win, but he got the draw, and you want to see him learn from it and improve from it. That's always the aim in every single fight, but particularly with something like that, you can often, off the back of something like that, see a significant step up made, and that's what they'll want to see. I mean, the win is the most important thing, obviously, but I think they might be looking for a bit more than that from him, a win and that real kind of step up fight.
Barry, we've seen McCann once since the draw last year against Beluta, against Brad Strand. Obviously dominated that fight, scored a knockdown early on and cruised to a unanimous decision win. What do we need to see from him this weekend against Beluta? Is it the win? Is that all that matters this weekend? Or does he...
Ultimately, but I think the fact that you take the fight again shows that that you think they can win impressively, I think. Otherwise, you just forget about him. How can you do that nowadays? Years ago, you could have that fight like that, even a loss, and just forget that guy existed. But they don't want to do that anymore and move on. But I thought he was lucky.
Yeah, I thought he was fortunate the first time.
I thought he was down on the cards. But anyway, it's just you take the luck where you can get it. I think you'll do a job. I think with Beluta, he's a guy you don't want to exchange with. But if you don't show any strength in your work, you walk right through anyway. So you got to get
that balance.
Get the balance right. And I think they'll get it right. I think we'll see a dominant performance from McCann without it ever being comfortable, which is obviously not ever going to be the case with Beluta, of course. But I think he wins most of the rounds. And I think he boxes really smart. I think he has loads of ability, Dennis McCann. But it's a concentration. He goes to concentrate for 3 minutes of every round. That's all he has to do. That's all you have to do. It's a piece of piss. It's not. That's very difficult. But I think he has the potential to do that. Just getting the balance right with holding your feet enough to get enough weight on your shots without holding your feet long enough to allow Beluta to run all over you and fire back in flurries. That's all it is. And don't let him chase you down. You get the pivoting, semicircles, all that, all the time. 1 step back, 1 step left or right. I usually say 2 steps back and then left or right. With him, it's 1 step left or right. Beluta, because he would try and chase you down. So, but I think McCann does a good job. Actually, I think it'd be a good win for him. Very positive today.
Yeah,
I feel.
It's good. It's absence makes the heart grow fonder, Barry. You're in a happy mood today. It's good. It's nice. We like it. We'll see how long it lasts.
Well done.
But the super bantamweight division I was just mentioning there, Andrew Kane obviously this past weekend now down at bantam. You've got
Kane and
they were talking about that for a while, weren't they? And that was when like Kane didn't know whether he was going to be super bantam or not. Yeah. And the point with that is obviously now you've got Liam Davies, Shabazz Massoud. Yeah. So Shabazz Massoud returns to the ring. They had a nice little bit of spice at ringside. Which is always good, obviously builds up to a nice affair. But an EBU European champion, if he wins this weekend, Mr. McCann, which puts him very much in the eye line and very much on the same path as those guys. So there's some really interesting fights to be made.
You know he's going to call Inoue out, don't you?
I mean, Liam Davies seems to really fancy the Inoue fight, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he really does.
Good luck to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck to him, man.
I love seeing that stuff.
Yeah, I do.
Out of those 3 that I've just listed there, Liam Davies, Dennis McCann, and Shabazz Massoud, if I was giving you money to buy stock in any one of those 3 fighters, who are you buying it in and why? Andy, come to you first.
That's a good question. Right now, I'd be buying it in Liam Davies, I think.
Why?
Because he's just the more proven of them, and also he's got that outside of the ring experience where he's headline fights and he draws a crowd and he's got all of that going for him as well. And you've seen him kind of really grow with that, I think, over the last 2 or 3 years, where he's the attraction. You know, he's a big man on campus around where he lives in boxing, and I think that adds something to you. So right this minute, it would be him. Yeah,
it's interesting that you'd say that, but your kind of view on that, I suppose, it is something that is sort of, I say unique because it happens all over the place, but like Chris Billam-Smith in Bournemouth, for example, you know, Anthony Collar in Manchester, Liam Davies in Telford, and whatever else, kind of having that behind you and thinking, oh, no one's going to come to my house, sort of thing. What does that give a fighter?
Yeah, it does. It gives you a confidence in yourself, because you have it's like gaining experience in learning things in the ring, but having that crowd behind you, when you go in, you just feel different. It's like boxing for your country, that sort of thing. You know, when you box your country, it's different. It's that pride factor that gives you. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but can and should just give you that extra 5-10% to go in there. Like, you know, you can just feel different, and I don't know what that is. You just feel more confident because you're protecting something. You're protecting your home or your record, but you're protecting something, and your crowd and everyone's expecting you to win. You just got that feel, and you want it, and that thirst for more, because you want more of it. You don't think that way, but that's what it is. It's that thirst for one, and you don't want this to ever end. So you're protecting something. So to protect what's yours, you'll do anything, won't you? And that's, and you say that about anything, but you put undefeated records, your ambition. But when you have all that crowd behind you as well, and you're starting to sell out places, and people are coming to watch you, then you feel like there's a weight on your shoulders, and coping with that. If you can cope with it, then it helps you. If it elevates you. If you can't cope with it, you suffocate. We see that quite often. Some people, all of a sudden, they could be boxing in a big arena, and they just go, I don't like this. Or headlining. We talk about prospects moving forward, but for David, I think he's right up there. He's grown into that role now of being the big guy where he is. But I would invest in McCann still.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah, I just think he has more ways to win potentially, but he needs that step as well. I think he seems to have been around forever for such a young man.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he seems to be around for a long time as such a young man. He turned pro young, and they were calling him the new Naz, which is ridiculous to say.
Anyone
that.
who throws a corkscrew uppercut now.
Yeah,
literally anyone.
Crazy, yeah, crazy. Some of the stuff that we were saying about him, like which was too much pressure for the kid. But he's been allowed to learn his trade a little bit now, I think, recently, and I know that draw doesn't go well, but also things like that can sometimes help you, steal you. I got away with it there. This
weekend is going to be we'll learn a lot of where he's at and how he's progressed, if he's progressed since that first fight this weekend. This is a big fight for Dennis McCann, it feels like.
Yeah, it's a huge fight for him, because I mean, he can still be successful beyond this, but I think how his promoters look at him will be a lot of different. I think they had big plans for him from a young age, and it's taken probably longer than what they thought, so they can get bored quite quickly, and you start chucking people in with fights, and this might be one of those. We'll chuck you in with him and see where you get on. They won't cut their losses with you, but they sort of do in a way, because then before you know it, then you're
the other side of the ticket.
You're boxing Ian Davies.
Yeah.
Whether you like
Telford.
Whether you like it or not, yeah. And
whether you like it or not, because he's the guy who sells the tickets.
Yeah, and that's the money. Take it or leave it. There's no negotiations with it. You take the money, otherwise you don't box for another 6 months. And
wouldn't that be great though? Well, that'd be that fight would be brilliant, because I know Davis is looking above that, and he would think, "Dad, don't need you. Why would I fight you?" But maybe there's the fights above him aren't there, and all of a sudden he takes that fight, and he's got that kind of spitting indignation about having to take it, and then you get some proper needle. I'd be all over that like a rash.
He thinks he could just knock him out. If I catch him, I'd be putting him to sleep. And McCann could think, I'm going to play with you. You're too boxing by numbers for me. I'll get around you. Every straight shot you throw, I'm going to just slip and dip and roll and just batter you. And Davis just think, mate, as soon as you drop your hands and try and throw in your pretty little punches, I'm just going to put you to sleep.
I think it'd be a really good build up, that, because I think personality-wise, I think they would really go at each other in a properly kind of entertaining but spiteful way.
Yeah, not quite respectful, but you wouldn't have to worry about it going too far.
No, it wouldn't go too far, but it would be simmering. It'd be on the simmer all the time.
Davies would really begrudge the fight, because he'd be thinking, I'm not, like you said, like I'm beyond this now.
Yeah, he's got to fight, he's got to get past Shabazz Massoud.
He would get that chip on his shoulder, wouldn't he, and then just say, Frank Warren, you want McCann to win, that's why you forced this fight. And he'd use all of that, wouldn't he? It'd be great, actually.
In your mind, so you're almost always the away fighter. In your mind, sometimes you think, you're on the same promotional team, but
because people wouldn't have expected it of him. I remember we first saw him. He boxed on Sky during, I don't think it was around COVID anyway, and you kind of check him out and you think, okay, he did well as an amateur, he sells some tickets. There's possibilities here, as in being a bit of a hometown hero. How good will he be? Don't know. And he's turned out to have gone further than I think anybody would have predicted, apart from those really close to him. And I wouldn't say that he forced Frank Warren and Queensberry to sign him, but that happens quite often, doesn't it? You might look at someone and think, not really sure, but they keep winning and they sell tickets. And you think, okay, well, yeah, let's do it. Whereas McCann was kind of one of the sort of anointed ones, wasn't he? They tracked him and they knew about him, and they've invested in him right from the very beginning. Whereas Davis kind of made people pay attention and made them take him seriously.
I bet you McCann's been pro for about 7 years now.
Not quite that long.
You know?
No.
About 4, I reckon.
Is it?
4 or 5, maybe.
What year are we in? 2024. No, it's 5 years. 5 years. Yeah, made his debut in May of 2019.
Oh, well, is that all it was? I thought it was longer than that.
Yeah, but yeah, he's hitting that stage. I mean, as evidenced by his last few fights. I mean, let's go back to Jimmy Beach, Joe Ham, Baluta, Brad Strand, Baluta. Like, he's getting into that meat now of his career. Where
and that's a good run. That's a good run of fights, isn't it?
Sure.
Like, the matching with him has been really good.
But a win and a draw over Baluta is far better than a loss and a draw, particularly when you consider obviously different stages of their careers. But Liam Davies neutralised Baluta, probably did as good a job on Baluta as anybody that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I think Liam Davies is a very good fighter. I think he can do it a bunch of ways as well. I think he can box, he can punch. He's got that nasty little edge about him as well, which you like to see. You could see him, like, again, like I mentioned it briefly a minute ago, that Shabazz Massoud fight, it's not a given by any stretch of the imagination. Shabazz Massoud is a very tricky guy. He's a good boxer, but I quite liked the fact that he was just sort of clearly pissed off at the weekend when they were going at each other on the stream. It starts to get spicy when David Adelaide has to be the voice of reason on the stream, and David Adelaide's like, maybe you should calm down, guys. Fucking you, mate. Anyway, right, final fight we're gonna preview before we wrap things up today is the fight that I'm most looking forward to this weekend. It is a brilliant fight in the super featherweight division. Ryan the Piranha Garner steps up against Archie Sharp. Fascinating fight, Barry. I mean, Ryan Garner is somebody that we've spoken about for a long time on here, and obviously everybody in boxing has been aware of his talent. Hasn't quite happened for him up until the last 12 to 18 months of his professional career, but he looks as though he started to kind of hit his straps at the right time. But even still, it's a big step up against Archie Sharp, somebody who's been in and around kind of, I guess, fringe European world level for a while. Yeah, no, it is. No, it's the fight he needs, I think, Ryan Garner. I mean, it's a fight that he could easily lose. I would say that much. But yeah, I think he's in the right grain of form. And I think he's outside of the ring. He seems to have sorted his life out. I think that was his biggest problem, wasn't it? Obviously. But he's heavy-handed. He's fast hands. I think his boxing brain's pretty good. Archie Sharp's clever, and he's long for the weight, but I just think he's hovered around for too long. Archie Sharp waiting for that world title fight that would look like, for him he thought it was going to come, and looked like probably it was never really going to come. Really, I don't know what's really gone on there, but I got a feeling that Garner's going to put on a bit of a show here. He was well ranked, to jump in, he was well ranked with the WBO. He won the WBO global title, which of course is great. Anyway, better than but signed with Probellum and ended up on the wrong end of that promotional stick for X amount of period of time, and really has trod water and treading water rather for his last half a dozen or so fights. And of course, last time out was dropped pretty heavily in the first round. Didn't look great in that. I think he can cause Garner loads of problems, especially with that fast jab he's got, and maybe be not giving him a boxing lesson, be quite ahead. But I think it's to keep Ryan Garner off you for 6 rounds is going to be hard. I think at some point he's going to take a shot, and I think the way he pulls out as well, Archie Sharp, that gives Garner a clear shot to hit him on the chin. And if he can hit you clean, I think you're in trouble. I mean, if you have a look at, let's say this fight was made 3 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, and bearing in mind, Ryan Garner, while kind of a prospect and is still a young guy, he's 26. He's not 22, 23 now. When you think about when he first turned up, I remember 2018, him being one of my 5 Frank Warren prospects to watch, and that's like a long time ago now. But if this was a few years back, 2 or 3 years ago, with Archie Sharp, he had wins over Jeff Ofori, had that brilliant fight with Leon Woodstock in Leicester. Yeah, and there was the Garrity fight. The Declan Garrity fight, knocked out a one-punch knockout. He's a bit lucky against Ofori, I thought. But I mean, it was a lockdown fight, wasn't it? Yeah, and there was Ofori's a hard night's work for anybody, as we've seen recently. But sort of what Barry said there about him treading water. And this is a good indicator of, Ryan Garner had been pretty much dormant for a good part of his professional career so far. But in the last 6 to 12 months or so, he seems to have got himself busy and active, and it just like that. I mean, he goes into this fight this week. I'm not sure what the betting odds are.
He's kind of born again, Garner.
Odds on favourite.
He's kind of a born again fighter, because it seems like I've chatted to Frank Hopkins about him a fair bit over the last couple of years whenever I bumped into him, and I think he could kind of see, Frank, that it was going to have to go wrong before it was going to go right. Immensely frustrating though that was to watch. That is what has happened, because he was throwing it away, and he was told that he was throwing it away. And I think a key thing that's really turned him around is the partner that he's got now. They got together, and she just won't. I think Frank said to me, basically, she just made it clear very quickly that she wasn't going to stand for any of his nonsense. And he's buckled down, and that's the difference, basically. And I would make him a favourite in that fight, just because of what has happened to Sharp over the last few years. I think it's probably been pretty dispiriting as well. Yeah. Like mentally, I think that's got to be difficult, because he was at number one, wasn't he? I mean, you said WBO Global, but he was at number one. And whatever
Shakur Stevens
whatever people might have thought about that, if you are number one, you are number one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's not his fault, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They put him there.
Exactly. But it never, like you said, Barry, it never really looked like it was going to happen. And with Pro Bellum, quite a lot of other fighters found a route out and signed with somebody else, and that just didn't really happen for him. And you kind of looked at it and you wondered why, and I've no idea what the reason for that was and what's gone on behind the scenes. But that would have been, the last few years would have been incredibly frustrating for him.
Very much. For Garner, I mean, Garner got those good rounds in against Liam Dillon. Good hard rounds, because that was one of the only issues of sort of his more recent bouts. Is obviously got a couple of early stoppages, but Liam Dillon is a good barometer. We saw his fight against Reece Belay, a great barometer for kind of being ready or in and around that mix. But Archie Sharp will argue that he's already been at that level, and he's past that, which is one of the things that makes it an intriguing watch this weekend. But
it's a good fight, actually.
Really looking forward to that
it's
fight.
It's a good bill, actually.
Yeah, another fight, apart from the main event. But anyway,
but the main event probably sells it to everyone else.
That's it.
That's what it is.
It's a good time of year, I think, to just plonk in a couple of shows too, because last weekend, for the first time in ages, I know there was some cricket and golf and the Grand Prix, but that's during the day. The Euros were finished, so for the first time for a while, you're not really up against anything. Yeah. I mean, the Olympics starts this coming weekend, doesn't it? Yeah. But like the opening weekend, I don't know. These are things that TV companies always think about.
Isn't the boxing start on the Friday, don't it?
Saturday.
You want to give. The thing with boxing, what's interesting about it is where, from a TV point of view, with other sports, obviously you get a schedule through. They'll know when the test matches are, the Grand Prix are, the golf tournaments are, and that is when they will happen. You know what you're getting, you get what you pay for. With boxing, we make our own fixtures, so you can kind of look at your schedule if you're TNT or Sky and think, all right, we'll have one there, and we'll have one there, and we'll have one there. And you're always looking to give them a slot where you think it's going to do well, viewing figures wise. So where it's not really up against much. And I think these back-to-back shows, I don't know the figures, but you say they'd have a chance of doing pretty well, because they're not up against football. Like, that is the thing that just kills you. I think Billam Smith, Reakpour, I think it did okay, but it was the first weekend of the Euros, and okay, England weren't playing, but I think Italy against Albania was on. Italy against Albania on terrestrial TV, big
Spain
tournament football.
And Croatia
people
as well,
just watch it. Yeah. They just watch it.
We catered the Johnny Fisher fight around
England. You have to, don't you?
Okay. I think we're about there.
Nice.
If you have a little bit, to be fair, again, like this weekend, just looking at it now, Raven Chapman's back in action, Sean Noakes, Royston Barney-Smith, Umar Khan, Brandon Lee, unbeaten 140-pound prospect making his Queensbury debut, Adam Hamed returning to the ring for just his second professional bout as well. So a lot to like about this weekend's card, even if the main event isn't up to your taste. Or mine. But anyway. But that's all we have time for here today on the Boxing Show. Actually, before we go, we're going to round up and do some predictions. We haven't got these wrong in a while. So
we haven't done it.
Actually, we haven't got them wrong in a while because we're in good form. Right, so we're going to start. We're going to do it quickly. Andy, going to come to you first. Joe Joyce versus Derek Chisora.
I'll say Joyce late stoppage.
How late?
10th.
Okay, Mary.
Referee just decides enough is enough.
I'm going to go with my prediction that it's boring. I hope I'm wrong. And I think Joyce points.
For Joyce, 5th round stoppage.
Nice.
Barry, going to come back your way for Dennis McCann versus Onat Baluta.
I think Talma...
McCann.
Oh, McCann. Oh, sorry.
Talma should beat Baluta. Right.
No, I don't know. You won't beat McCann.
He's tough, to be fair.
McCann points wide.
Same.
I'll go for McCann points close. Yeah, close. Ryan Garner versus Archie Sharp.
Garner TKO. Oh, very, very thin.
There we go, look at you.
9.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm thinking along similar lines.
I go for Ryan Garner points.
I think it's a good fight as well. I think it's competitive.
Yeah. I
really,
think
really competitive.
I think Archie Sharp will be long and awkward and
I think he'd be ahead as well, possibly, before Garner gets hold of him.
See, I think he could go the other way. I think Garner might start at a rate of knots and then not get rid of him and then win a clear competitive in stages decision. Atalma versus Marius Vac.
Baluta. I think Atalma 5.
Andy?
I sound like I'm copying Barry because I am really, but I think
Well,
Talma will
idiot.
get the stoppage, and I don't see it taking him. Yeah, around halfway. Yeah,
I'm going to go for Atalma round 3.
Nice.
I think the time has come for Marius to get whacked, and that's going to happen this weekend. And I think that's pretty much it. Yes, we have got there. So thank you very much for joining us on an extended, returning issue of the Boxing Show. We'll see you in October for when. But no, in all seriousness, thanks very much for all of your patience while we get our respective shit together and get back here for the Boxing Show. But from me, Rob Tebbutt, from Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke, thank you very much for stopping by. We'll catch up with you sometime soon.